Meeting of the Budget Committee on January 21st is called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Just a little discussion on public comment. I wanted to suggest, since we're not allowed to make any changes to the warrant articles tonight, we're just voting our recommendations, that we do one public comment at the beginning and one public comment at the end, rather than public comment on every single article. What do you guys think?
That's a great idea.
I'm okay with that.
So we have a
Thumbs
consensus?
up.
Yep.
All right, so, do we need a motion to open public comment? Can we just?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comment is open. Sorry for the curveball.
Yeah, it is a curveball. Sorry.
You know, maybe we can do this.
Well, I thought that we were gonna be able to talk about each one, so, because I know a lot of them I have nothing to say on, so, but now I gotta find the one that I wanted to.
Fair enough. Actually, why don't we do one side at a time? Why don't we do school, and then, or town, either one, whichever one you want to start. I don't care, you can lead the way, Patrick.
I only have one brief comment on a town warrant.
Cool, we'll start with town.
Okay. Good evening, Patrick Olazem, 22 Summer Drive. Hello again. There was a discussion last night about Article number 15, the police-borne body cameras.
Okay?
I'll let you pull that up. Director Campo, I want to verify one thing. I think I heard from you last night. I asked you about the differing language in that warrant article compared to the two previous ones. You mentioned that this was a direct-to-vendor sourcing, correct?
Correct. So the
And-
two previous ones, your question, I believe, was this lease agreement contains in the safe ones.
Correct. And
So-
you clarified that the difference was this one was direct-to-vendor,
So-
whereas the two others were not.
This one has it in it.
You could.
Yeah.
I think the question was the purpose of lease/purchasing.
Yes.
Oh,
And we were saying
Correct.
it was direct to vendor, not
Yes,
through
sorry.
Right.
financing.
For my own clarity, and because it informs what I'm about to say, did you also say this was a sole source procurement contract?
I did not say that.
Okay.
But it is.
It is. Okay. May I first ask, as a taxpayer, why was this a sole source procurement instead of being put out to competitive bid through an RFP, RFQ process?
The state bid, the state of New Hampshire has one, the vendor that we're using has one that bid through that.
Oh, so this is statewide. So every town in the state that wants to implement a police body-worn
Has the option
Has
to
the-
use that contract.
Understood. Okay, thank you very much. So regarding this warrant article, last night there was an extended discussion. I won't bore you with all of it. I asked a few questions about it. One of them was why, for a program of, as the police chief clarified, 70 cameras for 70 officers, the cost per camera per year was what it was, which is somewhere just above $3,500 per year per camera, which over 5 years comes out to, multiply 5 times 3,500. The police chief mentioned that for commercial camera systems like this one, the cost of $3,500 is not necessarily out of line. Granted, doing some research, $3,500 adjusted for inflation is right at the top of what these programs cost out there. There's a University of Chicago study, for example, that looks at these programs and says they're anywhere between $1,221 to, in 2021 dollars, something like $3,100 or so. Adjusting for inflation, 2025, $3,528, which this one comes out to. Not necessarily unreasonable. And I know that this body's purpose, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, is advisory. Therefore, what you're going to do is to recommend or not that the voters actually pass this. So what I would like you to consider is, was there a pilot study done, or are we going from zero to accepting the state of New Hampshire's optional bid for a vendor, Axon, that is at the very top of the market for costs, or is it reasonable to perhaps consider, should we do a pilot study first? And also, if you look at the New Hampshire statute that governs body-worn cameras for police officers, which I did, it actually says these are not mandatory, which is appropriate, leave it up to the discretion of the town, But police officers are also required by state statute to not have these things on and running all the time. They are required, when entering a situation where a recording might be pertinent, to activate them, and then as soon as the situation is resolved, to deactivate them. Is this something that we've considered extra training for, or are we merely imposing more cognitive burden on our officers by having these things? To be clear, I'm not saying we shouldn't have them. I'm a big fan of body cameras on law enforcement officers. I occasionally wear one myself when I go to certain places. My issue here is, are we going straight from zero to Cadillac instead of considering Honda and Ford in the meantime? And are we considering training costs, cognitive burden costs, et cetera? So all I'm asking this body to do, as you consider, should we recommend this to the voters on the warrant, the budget committee, however many of you there are, recommends or not this thing, is it worth, perhaps, since we're going from never having had these things before, should we have done a pilot study? Should we have tested out a few for maybe half a year or so and seen what the officers think of it? And should we necessarily go to the Cadillac before even thinking about the Honda and the Ford? So I'm not speaking against this. I'm just saying from a fiscal perspective, are we going from zero to Cadillac without thinking about some of the steps in between? That's all. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry I was excessively verbose.
While we're on this topic, can we have Chief respond, if you'd like?
All right. So much to dissect there, so bear with me while I
And
try to
thank- and
remember
thank you, Patrick.
everything that was said. I believe the first thing was said is, did we look into this before? The answer is yes. Just so you folks know, probably 4, maybe 5 years ago, we did, I guess you could call it like a little mini task force within the organization, where they sought out different vendors and what were the options available to us at that time. At that time, the former police chief and the former command staff applied for a grant, and we got denied. About 3 years ago, give or take, maybe 6 months within, before Chief Hart's last year, we looked at it again, and at that time, we narrowed it down again, and we came up with another company that was called Body Worn by Utility or something like that. That fell through at the last minute, again, through grant funding. There was another local agency, maybe 2 large ones, that had that same manufacturer, Body Worn by Utility, and they are proven now to be not as good as proposed. Axon is the Cadillac for a reason. They market this area. It goes hand in hand and coincides with our tasers that we're getting. I think that they have been proven to be the best out there. And I think when we're talking about equipment for the men and women, I don't want the Pinto. I want the Cadillac. Despite what residents may feel about it, it is a costly item. But there is no better cost savings than this for protection of the men and women of the PD that serve you in this community every day. I don't like taking opportunities to harp on unfortunate situations. I don't like fear-mongering, but I'll state the facts. 2 nights ago, as we heard, the Border Patrol agent in northern Vermont was killed on a traffic stop. Let's see how quick that turns around to have someone cleared versus an agency that has no body-worn cameras. Despite the opinions of others, unless you and your family are in that situation, or you are in that community, you want to see that turned around rather quickly. At that moment, you will not care if it's a Cadillac or a Pinto. What you want to see is, were our officers in the right? The AG's office is going to want to see, were they justified in using deadly force? The quicker we have these things installed in our agency, the quicker we can add this to our repertoire, the quicker we become even more transparent. It's not a matter of when. It's going to happen here someday. I hope it doesn't happen, but it will. It's law enforcement. It's police work. As far as all the other cost items, we got the best deal from this company that we believe we could. We kind of did some backdoor sneaky channeling where we reached out to other municipalities that were going through a similar process to see if the numbers were off. They weren't off. We did the best we could with this one, to include, now I know it's been mentioned here per camera, This also includes the warranties as discussed. It includes the iCloud coverage for the evidence collection. It includes the database packaging. It includes the charging dock stations that are needed for it. We need 2 or 3 dock stations for the town, and we need to have one at the airport for when the officers are working up there to change it. It comes with, again, we had to have officers become instructors, so that covers the Axon to come down here and train the men and women who are gonna be the instructors for the police department. So we get that additional training as included. So they will, as in the men and women of the PD, they will have the best training like we always provide our people. They will be held to the same standard with or without a camera that we've always done here at Londonderry Police Department. And this will be mandated at some point. So it's not mandated today, but what if it's mandated in a year or two? And this number here is not gonna be what it is today. And I don't wanna be the one to say, well, when you want me to get them, and now we're paying $300,000 more, you guys gonna care at that point if it's a Cadillac or a Pinto? The answer is no. So this is the best deal, the best bang for the buck right now. I don't know if it'll be later. If you guys vote it, not in favor of it, that's okay, I get it. I'm not gonna sit up here and cry about it. I'm gonna go back to my seat, and we're gonna talk about the next item. We've been shot down twice for grants, twice. So, while grants are nice, can't always get them. So I hope that answers most, if not all of them. Just like the tasers, when we entered into that program, that too included training costs and all that. So those men and women that were selected to be taser instructors, just like these body-worn camera instructors who are gonna go through all that, taser will come here, and Axon will come here, they'll train our people, and therefore our policies will mirror our CALIA standards that we're gonna have to hold to. So it can't get any better than that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you, Patrick.
May I say one more quick word?
Sure.
Hey, Also,
This may surprise the
Patrick, before you continue, did you state your
Yes, I did.
address? All right, I missed
Yeah,
it,
I
sorry.
already did.
you
20
get his last
Summer
name?
Drive, though. Chief,
Patrick
this may
Gulatin,
surprise you,
right?
but I'm actually going to vote for this warrant article. And my point is not at all anything against the police department. I support you guys fully. You're awesome. And you are first responders along with fire and EMT. My point here, whether this is about body cameras for the police or anyone else, is this is what I mentioned last night. Whoever wrote this particular warrant article, compare it to the 2 that go before. The 2 that go before, to someone who calculates unit costs, because I pay property taxes in this town, are actually specific. There is one thing which will cost this much. This particular warrant article doesn't include unit costs or anything else. So just understand, my perspective here is strictly fiscal. After the chief commented last night that, and so did Mr. Cronin here on the budget committee, that these costs are to some extent in line with what other municipalities pay, totally agreed. That's why I did my research. My point here is just that for me, as someone who worries about my property tax bill, my constructive feedback is the next time around, this particular warrant article could be better written to reflect the unit cost, and also, maybe it's not appropriate for a warrant article, but why are we just taking the state's recommendation to do a sole source vendor contract when there are other vendors out there? So I just wanted to clarify that, and I do actually support our police department getting these.
Thank you.
So, couple items on that. Number one, while we're using Axion state bid, they don't necessarily need to. If Axion comes back and says it's actually 1.5, because we don't list the vendor on here, we're able to switch vendors and go out to bid. Where if we were to name Axion, we would have to use Axion or get permission from the state to switch, which would be difficult because the voters approved Axion.
Understood. I apologize if I came across as asking for the vendor to be named. That's not what I.
The other aspect of why you don't have a unit cost, this includes upgrades as well as support costs for the program. So I'd have to break out how much the support is as well as how much the upgrade is, whether it's per body camera or everything of that nature. This is a total package, including real-time support, and as Chief Bernard had mentioned, the upgrades and not monitoring, but the additional equipment with it. So it's not a one-to-one because of the support. Where the other two, we're not getting support on the equipment, or the vehicles. It's, the vehicle is what we're getting.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Absolutely.
Let's move forward.
It's the same topic.
Okay, same topic.
Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road, on the same topic. It says here on the first year payment. So could you elaborate, like, what are the next, like, how many years are we in this agreement for?
5 years, and
So how does that break out? If you don't mind explaining that to me, that would be awesome.
I hope my math was right, but I believe if you multiply 246, 629 times 5, you get that number.
So it's this exact same cost for the next 5 years. So why does it say for the first year payment? So that makes it sound like
Because
it's
you're,
only gonna be that
because
cost for that year.
you're appropriating the first year payment on this.
And after that, it will become part of default because it becomes an obligation. So once you vote it in, it then becomes part of your default budget because it's an obligation that the town has entered into.
I'm just
This,
saying it
this is
because-
raising it in excess of what the budget is.
I'm just saying it because there's people like me out there that may not know your world, in your world of budgetary stuff. And when I read that, it sounds like, okay, I'm gonna pay that for the first year. What's the hook for the year 4, 5, and, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
3, 4, you know what, I don't know if it can be clarified better at the deliberative, but it needs to be put out there so that people could know that. That's it, thank you.
Thanks.
And Justin, 1/5 of $1,235,000 is $247,000.
So, yep, I just did it. It's just short, and I have to figure out why, and I'll figure out why before deliberative.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Nope, it's, I just took the number here, so.
Glenn Douglas, 6 Overlook Ave. I've got a question on the collective bargaining agreements. Last night, what I thought I heard was that the council's not gonna release them. I know the chair asked if he could get some sort of summary. I would assume the council read the actual agreement. I emailed the council today for clarification, and they didn't respond to me, which is not the first time. Have you seen the contracts, or are we just gonna base this on a summary?
We just got the changes. Is that a fair assessment, Justin?
These are the cost impacts of the warrant articles.
Okay.
How do you vote on something that you haven't read the contract? I mean, when I went and signed my 765 pages of my mortgage, granted, I didn't read it because it's boiler, but there's lots of other things that, I wanna know what the details are. And if someone gave a summary, and I know Justin's really good at what he does, but if the attorney the other day summarized and gave partial information, are the voters gonna get to see this? Or do we just have to, as they say in DC, vote on it and find out what you voted on? That's the first one.
I don't disagree with your question, Glenn, Mr. Douglas. I had the same questions myself, and I pointed out the difference between the way the school side handled their teacher's contract, and that we had a summary of all of the changes that we could look through, versus the town side. And so I think as a result, we have a document with at least the changes that are monetary, which is really all we get to have an opinion on, is the changes that are monetary. So, I do see your point, and we were working to get information on them.
So the council didn't send you anything after that meeting until you asked for it last night?
The town did. The town employees did.
Right, but you asked for it last night, and Justin said he'd send it to you. So the council didn't, I mean, that meeting to approve those was like a week ago. They didn't give you any information, say, hey, heads up, because we know you're gonna take a position on this?
I would have to check my email about that, but I don't believe we had any details before this.
Okay, that was the first one. The second one, just because this popped up, I don't know, like 11 o'clock last night, 11:30. The $40,000 for furniture. It wasn't noticed. It wasn't anywhere. It wasn't in the packet. It wasn't until, well, 11 o'clock at night that we started talking about furniture. But you had mentioned you had contacted the chair.
I saw it when I came in last night, and I was sitting next to a library trustee, and I said, hey, what's the story with this? and she was unaware of it. And the director
Okay.
was 2 chairs in front of me, and I asked her the same question.
Because it seems to be a struggle to get information from the council.
Oh, I don't.
They have information that us folks out here don't. So when we sit, and I know this is not you, but when we sit out here trying to figure this out, and this is the first time you've seen it, and you're trying to read through 14 pages while everyone else is talking about Article 3, you miss half of what Article 3 was because you're trying to skim through 14. And obviously last night, because it was late, 1:45, you guys all know. At the end, it was shotgun, hey, we want to get this thing over and done with, but that's just.
So in terms of that one, that was a citizen's petition.
Right.
And in my opinion, this is one of the flaws of the RSA's for New Hampshire. I can't get that in a newspaper prior to the meeting.
No, I understand that. It's,
And I tried, if you look, I tried posting it the Friday before, because I had to go through and build everything out, so it was available Friday before, but again, you'd have to go through and look. But in terms of getting it out with the citizen's petition, we got it Tuesday. We got the numbers, we got the votes verified, I believe, on Wednesday. And I tried my best to get it as,
and I'm sure you did, and I absolutely believe that, but based on the comments from the council last night, they had information in their packet, because I don't think they came in and skimmed through the packet. They had information that we didn't have.
so I emailed Friday, I emailed the budget committee and the town council all of this information that you had in the packet, which was also available online on Friday.
They chose not to send out to the people in advance.
It was available online on Friday.
It was?
It was.
I didn't see it.
Justin,
Anyway,
was that the
that's
one
fine.
that Kirsten said there was a QR code attached to it too?
She did, but on the finance department budget documents, fiscal year '26, there's actually a section that I broke out to say second public hearing. It has since been updated because as of the Monday, I updated the warrant articles as well, and it'll be updated again once these are finalized. But I did have it up there on Friday as of, I believe it was the 17th is what I put it as.
But I definitely see
and
your
I
point about.
I think it was
sorry.
about 5 o'clock. I agree with you, but there's only so much I can do at that point. I put it on the website
I'm
and.
not putting this on you. I asked the council that question. They told me everything they get would be in their public packet online, and it clearly wasn't in the public packet online.
So if you go to the website, I think it actually has the most recent budget documents, which is where you would have
Right.
been able to find it.
That's fine. Last one, and I don't really know this, and this applies to anything that's, I guess, an article or a bond. If the cost for the first year, this is just the kindergarten one for whatever. If the cost for the first year is 4 cents, and the second year is 12 cents, and the third year is 12 cents, is that cumulative? So you're paying 16 cents the second year?
No, no, it's not cumulative.
Okay. That's it.
That one.
It's
On
just that,
one.
it's just that the first year is a smaller payment to get the bond started, I believe, and then we get into the regular payment thereafter. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amity.
Yep, you're correct. One last question?
Sure.
Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. So I have a question on the, was it 44,000 for the library furniture?
40.
40,000, okay. Thank you for correcting me.
You're very welcome.
So my point is, it's not the amount of money, it's not any of that. When you guys, do you ask these people to show you, like, where they went and got not invoices, but quotes as the true cost of what it's gonna be? But the thing that troubles me the most about this article is that it's coming directly from the undesignated fund balance. So what if somebody, a group of people, go to the deliberative and want to say they want $350,000 out of the undesignated, or for the library chairs, out of the undesignated fund balance, because on the ballot, it will still say 0 tax impact? Because it says it's coming directly from the impact, the undesignated funds, is what I'm trying to say, sorry. Because it's coming from the undesignated funds, if somebody goes to change it at deliberative and they get enough votes to change it, they could zero, potentially, not saying they're gonna do it, but they could really damage financially this town. And I don't know if any of you had that question or looked up legal things about it, but it's concerning to me. I mean, I'm all for citizens petition. Lord knows I put in 5 last year. That's not the issue, and it's not the issue of what they're looking for, even though I hope you did see that they put in, because I didn't see the presentation, if they actually did their homework as to that's the true amount that they need. But that being said, it's the fact that they say in there they want it all from the undesignated fund balance, and we all know that it's deliberative. If you bring enough people, you can change the dollar amount to anything you want. So literally, someone could go in and say, I recommend that we change that to $500,000. And if they get enough people to vote, that's what goes on the ballot, and what the people see is 0 impact on their taxes. And that's very, very scary. It should be very scary to everybody up
Yeah,
here.
so
Bring your
And it's-
friends.
one
I
thing
should have been
first.
questioned.
Justin,
Can I-
you can,
Can I chime one thing?
Yep.
I just want to
Okay, I'm
give
sorry.
some, no, you're good. I just want to give a little clarity. They can't go, you can't go and do everything. It's only 10% up or down at deliberative can you change, but
Do you
that's
know-
minor.
okay, so fine,
100%,
whatever
no.
that 10%, do we want to max it
Please,
out?
no, please don't think that I'm trying, I just want to,
I do understand that, but my fear is.
no, it's, and I,
that
100%.
I know it's illegal written that
Yep.
way, right? I don't know if they had legal look at. I'm just
did
concerned for
not.
the town,
We
okay?
received that on Tuesday or Monday, I don't remember exactly.
so,
And I also think the consensus last night was the same.
I couldn't stay up there.
yeah,
No,
Deb,
but I think
It-
have this
there
conversation.
was concern for it as well.
And I believe 2 of the counselors said they were going to try to
Does
put,
anyone know?
I-
Deb,
Go ahead, Dave.
so, Counselor Dunn did bring your concern up, almost word for word. He goes, oh my God, it's like, what you stated is exactly what Counselor Dunn said.
It
And
should
he's
be.
like, wait a second, guys. And he's like looking at it as like, they're questioning, he's like, do the RSAs allow us? Because that's what dictates what we can do.
I
And he
understand.
says, wow, ooh, we may have something that we have to look at and readdress at a higher level than us,
Mm-hmm.
from the state perspective and say, I agree with you. It's a concern.
Agreed.
And it's like, yeah, people could probably do that, but, the impact to the town would be significant.
I know.
It's like penny wise today and get whacked for, twice as much
Oh,
tomorrow.
I'm not disagreeing. Like I said, I'm not saying it's gonna happen,
Right.
but the
but I
fact
think
there's
we
a
need to shine,
possibility.
it's a possibility,
Right.
and you need to shine a light on it because it is a
I
possibility.
think this petition lit the light under Councilors Dunn to say, wait a second, guys, we gotta go look at something here.
The other question I have is, at deliberative, couldn't anybody see, when we talk about the general operating budget, isn't somebody say, I motion to change this part of the budget to, we have $2,500 in there in the general budget for furniture now. Couldn't somebody make a motion to change that 2,500 to 40,000 in the budget at deliberative anyway?
So it would be the entire budget that they would increase in that amount, and they
Okay.
could
wouldn't
request
be
it. But again, it goes
Okay.
back to my 10%, is you can only do it 10% of what it is, just so everyone's aware that you can't jump up. You can't double the budget, and you can't cut the budget in half.
But if
Okay.
you put it in the general budget, isn't it there all the time? Then that would be a fixed 40,000 every year, year after year, if you put it in as that's what you want in the general budget?
In Article 2, or
It
Which
wouldn't-
this
what
warrant
she's
article.
saying
It wouldn't
is to
become
change
What she's saying is,
the
if
line
that
and-
proposed were to pass, it would, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
It would be part of the default, and then
Yeah,
we'd have
it
the
would be
discussion
a
next
so
year.
In
Yeah.
other words, you increase their bottom line to
Yeah.
use any way they want by $40,000.
Yeah, and so but what I'm trying to say is, if there wasn't a citizen's petition, somebody else could have done something another way as well, so it's, yeah.
Yes and no, but the fact is that the other way, it would have had a dollar amount to it. I should
Yep.
talk to the mic, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Yep,
that's
come on
okay.
up.
yeah.
The other way, there would have been a dollar amount, a
Yep.
tax affecting, it will
Tax
affect your
impact on that,
taxes
yeah.
by X amount,
Yep.
right? This way, it says 0, and we all know that there are voters out there that just go, oh, it's 0, oh, it's 0, oh, it's 0, so they go for that.
Yep.
And so that's my only
That's a fair one, yep.
Copy that. Do we have more public comments? Good evening.
Hey,
Was it just questions or?
So we're kind of,
statements?
what we're doing is we're gonna do public comment, and then we're gonna go through the town articles, and then we'll do public comment again, and then we'll go through the school articles, and hopefully that'll be it.
Okay. So my question is.
Name and address?
name and address, please.
So my name is Maura Ryan and I live at 2 Snowberry Hollow. My question is this. During the last election cycle, something that came up repeatedly as people came to talk to elected representatives about what their issues were were the massive amount of inflation and how the taxes were increasing exponentially. And many people said, like Mr. Martin, who came up here, that I'm getting priced out of my house and I don't want to move because I've lived here my entire life. And there are people who I've been to school with whose families have been living here generations, 200 years back. So my question is, you know, when I hear things like, it just costs a cup of coffee, I find that pretty disingenuous because nobody's going out and buying coffee right now because they're more concerned about paying their taxes. So my question is, have you done everything to support the people who want to stay in their homes, who are low income, who are concerned about the budget, and might not even know that this is happening because they're going to get whacked with a tax bill December of next year?
I think that the
July,
budget
maybe.
process is,
December's the higher one, though.
we are doing what we can to keep these tax bills down while still maintaining services. Like, I think we're faced with sometimes difficult decisions, trying to find a balance between keeping the tax bill from going way up, but also continuing to provide the services that we need to provide and making sure those services are modern and adequate. I think that, actually, this is my third year on Budget Committee, and I'm of the opinion that the budgets that have been put forward the last few years, for the most part, were pretty lean. And I believe that the part of what people are feeling on their tax bills is not that the town's coming in with a huge budget. It's not that the school's coming in with a huge budget, because they've been close to or below default the last 3 years. And it's the lack of parity between residential revenue and commercial and industrial revenue. And that, I think 3 years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, it was closer to 50-50, where it was like 50% residential revenue and 50% commercial and industrial. And right now, it's 61% residential and 39% commercial and industrial because of the I don't know, the lag in commercial values coming up to keep up with the increase in residential values. And that, to me, is a problem. And so I think that some of the increases over the last few years have not specifically been related to, oh, they came in with really strong budgets that were expensive. It's, we are trying to keep it lean, and the budgets, I think, have been pretty lean, but we're getting hit on the other side by that imbalance. Can you speak to that, Justin?
So I can't, the numbers, I don't want to say the numbers are 100% accurate, but the idea is accurate. Essentially, the commercial side grows slower than the residential. For example, a house that was bought in 2019, if you're able to buy that house again for that price, I want your realtor.
My realtor's very good.
So it's one where essentially that's part of the issue, where we have the commercial side not growing as fast as the residential, but on the flip side, if things start going bad, residential falls quicker than than the commercial side.
Well, then I think you're not facing another issue, because essentially the business model has changed so that, like the guy who came in here yesterday who did Insight Technologies, who does the night vision stuff, he lived here, which is why he had his business here. That business is now owned by L3 Communications, which is a large military contractor. So L3 is not going to look at it like, I want to stay invested in Londonderry per se. They're going to look at it from a global point of view, because they're going to go where they need to go from their business perspective. Because back in the day, like Hershey's Chocolate is a good example. They invested a lot in their community, and they have schools in their community and all these other things in their community, and they support baseball teams and softball teams. Friendlies was another one who did that. They used to support a lot of the local baseball teams. That's not happening because the way the business model is operating now is changing, where it's outsourcing, and they're thinking in a different way about their real estate. And they're thinking about, where can I get the best price? And I don't think you're going to be able to go back, but you should be investing heavily in smaller businesses and not larger ones. And I don't believe that giving tax breaks to the guy who's the biggest landlord is going to really help you long term.
No, I'm not speaking to that issue at all. I'm speaking to that. I think that the budget.
But that does impact the budget, and I think that's going to continue to do so.
Agreed. That's an issue, but I also see the side that if we take a and this is not really the discussion for tonight, but to take a property that is getting us little or no tax revenue and develop that property and get $200,000 that we weren't getting before, that's a win. You know, and over the next 5 years, that increases, and we end up getting $400,000 in the long term. I can see the value of a program like that. I'm glad the town council is looking at that program and looking at putting some more teeth into it so that they have more control over the applicants, and I agree with you on that point. But I do see the value of getting tax revenue that we weren't getting before.
Well, I also think there's a lot of unintended consequences too here, because they cut $30,000 out of transportation in the school budget to make the school bus run less expensive, if you want to call it that. But then they have all the buses on the main routes. And the problem with that is it now creates traffic jams, and now you need more traffic cops because they're clogging the main roads. Instead of going down the cul-de-sacs, they're on the main roads, and if you're stuck behind a bus, you're going to sit there for a long time.
I can't speak to that. I'm unaware, but I would say that the traffic cops that we're trying to add are not for traffic direction. They're for traffic enforcement, which is a direct response to citizen complaints.
Yes, and a lot of those complaints revolve around people speeding and going around school buses.
Agreed, absolutely, but yes, the speeding issue, but
Which, if they were on the cul-de-sacs instead of the main road, would be less of an issue.
okay, that sounds like an issue for the school board.
Probably is, but it's also a budget issue because you cut $30,000, but you created other problems that cost more.
We didn't create any issue. We don't create the budgets. We're merely advisory. I think you're preaching to the wrong choir here. I think we did a really good job at dissecting both budgets. We went to both councils with itemized cuts and opportunities for savings. And on the town side, what was it, the number $250,000 we took off the original proposed budget?
25, something like that?
So we did what we could in the positions we're in to impact the budget, to answer your initial question.
Right, we can't make decisions about school bus routes.
And I understand
I'm not
that it's
aware of the
I
$30,000
understand that
cut
it's
that you're
advisory,
speaking
but
to.
you also at one point were saying, try and cut this much and do this, and none of that came to fruition, and it just sort
Well,
of
wait.
petered out.
They asked us to cut 100,000 and we cut 224,000.
No, I
Part of
know
that was
with
because of
four
recommendations from the
below,
budget committee.
The four below, when you went through the exercise of doing four below.
Below the default budget. Yes.
Agreed. What Justin's saying is when we went through that exercise, then, and you're right, then they didn't take any of that advice. But then later on, when they said, hey, let's cut 100, Justin was able to go back and with that advice that we gave in that exercise, find $220,000+ of areas that he could cut. So instead of cutting 100, which the town council suggested, he was able to save much more than that.
Well, I think you think about the residents too, many of whom can't be here because it's like -7 degrees. But a lot of them are watching, and they come back and they watch these things, and I don't think people are happy. So, and that's all I'll say about that.
Okay, well, we are thinking about the residents. I think we're trying to do a good job of managing the budget that's brought to us.
I'd like to make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 7-0. All right, so let's go through the town warrants, and we'll have discussion amongst the budget committee, and we can ask questions of the finance directors if we need to, and then we'll make our recommendations. So, election of officers, we don't need to vote on that. So, Article number 2, and I've been advised that we don't need to read the entire article, so I'm just gonna read the title. If there's something else that you'd like read on the article, let me know. So Article number 2 is,
Just one question quickly.
Go ahead.
Justin, all the changes that we discussed yesterday
Yep.
have been included.
Yes.
Thank you.
The article that the town council removed from the warrant is not included in your packet.
And that changed the numbers.
And change the numbers to the 350 to the 200,000 on the expendable public safety trust.
yep,
And then some grammatical errors were also corrected.
Yeah. And then once that, the one that we deleted
Yep.
is the numbers changed to
Yep,
-1.
The numbers all changed, and you also see in your packets an updated tax rate calculation with that removal of the possibility of the expendable trust for the transportation. Because
Okay.
that was for $200,000. You'll see that the tax rate impact went down by about 0.03.
Okay.
So the new tax rate is now an estimated 4.55.
4.55.
Yep, and that's in your packet. I
And that's
believe.
with the removal of the 100 and, oh yeah, because the other one
It's
was
The
UFB.
other one was
Okay,
UFB,
yep.
but this was just with the removal of the old Article 32, which was the Public Transportation Expendable Trust.
Okay. All right, so article number 2, fiscal year 2026 town operating budget. Do we have discussion on this?
It's kind of related.
Okay.
What was it? The previous warrant article that was 350 that moved to 200.
Yep.
Did that UFB move to another article?
No, it was, that resulted in a decrease in what we were gonna be removing from the UFB by 150.
Okay.
Yes.
Further discussion on article 2.
So this is a further $224,000 decreased after the initial $100,000 decrease from the other.
As opposed to the
Meeting.
initial 100, it became 2.
Okay.
What was it?
Correct. $224,456.
Okay.
I guess I've been kind of like on the fence, understanding like it's really kind of expensive out there, and this one's kind of linked in my mind to that additional fund. Understanding that there's 350 of UFB out there, I definitely want to see that at least on another warrant article, not necessarily this one, but that would make me feel better about this one at least.
That, at this point, that change would have to be made a deliberative.
I understand.
Okay.
So Justin, so these numbers, I'm looking at last night's copy and today's copy. The $50 million number and the $49 million numbers, they should be identical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing changed from last night on this one.
Okay.
The only thing that, in your packet, you also have the town council votes.
Yes.
So you'll see what
Yep.
they voted last night. We have input that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on article 2? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to recommend article 2.
Motion to recommend Article 2.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? 7-0. I should also mention that the town council voted 5-0. When I name the article, I'll say how the town council voted, if that's okay. All right, article number 3, expendable maintenance trust fund. The town council voted 5-0 on this. Discussion on the expendable maintenance trust fund. It's for the purpose of repairing and maintaining town facilities and infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. And they were using 100,000 of unassigned fund balance. So it's a $200,000 warrant article, 100 of which comes out of UFB. Questions and discussion?
None.
I'll accept a motion to recommend article number 3.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Oh, sorry, not opposed. I say yes.
7-0.
Sorry, I'm trying to take notes and talk at the same time. This is not easy.
I should mention that I suppose I should mention that that I voted in the affirmative on both of those.
Great.
Okay. Article number 4, the roadway maintenance expendable trust fund. This is to raise $650,000 to be put in the roadway maintenance expendable trust fund. The town council voted 5-0 in favor. Discussion or questions on roadway maintenance expendable trust fund? I'll accept a motion to recommend the roadway maintenance expendable trust fund.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I voted in the affirmative. Any opposed? 7-0. Article number 5. Establish and fund police equipment and technology capital reserve fund. This is to raise and appropriate $100,000 to establish and fund this, and further to use $100,000 from the unassigned fund balance. The town council voted 5-0 in favor. Discussion on Article 5. Okay, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 5.
So moved.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 7-0. Chair voted in the affirmative. Article 6, Fire Department Truck Capital Reserve Fund. This is to raise $300,000 to be placed in the Fire Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund. And further to authorize the use of 300 from the, $300K from the unassigned fund balance, so there's 0 on property taxes. Town council voted 5-0 in favor. Discussion on article number 6. quick question, and I probably should know this already. What's in the fire department truck capital reserve fund now?
Right now, there is $105,433.
Being affected by the 2 trucks we purchased last year.
That's the reason why we're funding this one again, is we have 2 trucks on order. Their cost is 1.1 million, and the idea is to use this 400,000 to put 200,000 towards each and lower the annual cost when financing that agreement.
Okay?
Is that 1.1 million for one truck or 2 trucks?
1.1 per, so a total of 2.0. One will be, it's anticipated in June of next year, not this June, the next one.
June of 26?
Yes, and then the next one is, I believe, September or October of 26.
Or anywhere between there
Un-
or 6 months
unf-
after the first one.
Yeah, unfortunately, fire trucks, there's a long lead time. As we get to the pumper later, if that passes and we order it, we're not seeing it for 4 years. So,
Further discussion on Article number 6? Then I'll accept a motion to recommend Article number 6.
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we need to know who the motion and second are from?
I'm writing it down.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. All right, Article number 7, Fire Department, I can't speak today. Fire Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town, $75,000 to be placed in this fund with $37,500 coming from the unassigned fund balance. So the resulting property tax would be $37,500. The town council recommended this 5-0. Discussion on Article number 7. Okay, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article number 7.
So, go ahead.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article number 8, the Information Technology Capital Reserve Fund. This is for $100,000 to be placed in this IT Capital Reserve Fund, with $50,000 of that coming from undesignated fund balance. Town council voted 5-0 in favor. Discussion on the Information Technology Capital Reserve Fund. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article number 8.
So moved.
So we have a motion, and it sounds like we also have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article number 9, Pillsbury Cemetery Expansion Capital Reserve Fund. This is to raise $75,000 for the Pillsbury Cemetery expansion, $37,500 of which is coming out of UFB. Town council voted 5-0 in favor. Discussion on Article number 9. Okay, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article number 9.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0.
Chair votes in.
I voted in the affirmative.
Thank you.
All right, Article number 10, Fund Master Plan Non-Capital Reserve Fund. This is to raise $50,000 for the future updating of the town master plan. It's gonna be placed in the Master Plan Non-Capital Reserve Fund, and $25,000 of it is coming out of UFB. The council recommended it 5-0. Discussion on this. Okay, just to reiterate what we talked about last night a little bit, this master plan is already being looked at, and there's an expense associated with that. The statement last night was that it was about 150 last time we did this.
I believe that is accurate. I know that they're currently working on it. This would be more of a planning area, but I know they are currently working on it, and we are updating the master plan.
Okay. Discussion on Article 10. Okay, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 10.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article number 11, Recreation Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will raise $20,000 to be placed in the Recreation Department Capital Reserve Fund, 10 of which is coming from UFB. Town council recommended it 5-0. Discussion on the Recreation Capital Reserve Fund. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 11.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article number 12, Cable Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. This is $32,500, all coming, not coming out of UFB, excuse me, all coming from what? What is this coming from, Justin?
This is coming from our cable agreement for public educational and government access programming with the franchise agreement that we have. So it's coming from Xfinity or Comcast.
Okay. Zero tax impact. The town council recommended this 5-0. Discussion on Article 12. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 12.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. I obviously voted in the affirmative. DPW equipment vehicle leases. This is $520,000 for leasing a 6-wheel truck and a 1-ton utility truck and a boom flail apparatus. $70,607 is the first year payment. Town council recommended it 5-0. Discussion on Article 13. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 13.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 14, Fire Department Aerial Ladder Tower Apparatus. This is for $2,300,000 to lease an aerial ladder tower truck. $292,130 is the first year payment. The town council recommended it 5-0. Discussion on Article 14.
So Justin, just for clarification for the audience, this is for a lease to own.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's, for governmental accounting, lease is the terminology. It's essentially as though we're financing it. So come year 10, we own it.
All right, so I just have a comment, maybe for future planning, Justin, is that I feel like this should have been part of the fire department truck capital reserve fund. And that if we were funding that more,
I would agree with future planning, which is why we started utilizing this, because I was informed that we have 3 coming up at once. So unfortunately, I can't go back in time to do it, so that's why we
Agreed.
started trying to fund the fire truck capital reserve.
okay, so given that these costs on these fire trucks are significant,
And they've grown significantly since the last time we've replaced them as well, which is
Absolutely.
another one of the issues that we have is
I would add,
it's increased significantly for what we purchased this for back in 2002 is the replacement that we have.
all right, I'm just advocating more substantial funding of that fire department truck capital reserve fund going forward to avoid the hits.
I would 100% agree.
And one thing to note is this bucket truck won't be here probably if it got passed for another 4 years. So you'd have 4 years potentially for a warrant article to fund
Oh, okay,
the fire truck capital reserve line.
okay.
So
And if we did that, it would decrease the lease,
if
like you're doing with the other 2 trucks.
It could, yep.
Yeah. And at what point in that 4 years do we start putting money down on the truck versus paying it for it in full?
So that's what we'll have to take a look at, is where the interest rates are and how we can address that. Because essentially, we could enter into the agreement to start the payments sooner,
Yep.
even though we're not going to receive it for 4 years.
Right.
Or we can look to defer it, depending on how we believe interest rates will relay.
And so it's a financial exercise to come up with that number.
It's a financial exercise as well as making sure that we stay within DRA and the state laws.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on Article 14. Okay, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 14.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 15, police body worn cameras. This is for $1,235,000 over the 5-year lease. The first payment to be $246,629. And the town council voted 5-0 in favor. Justin, this is also lease to own, kind of. Can we get clarity on that? Like, so I feel like we pay, these 5 years, then the next time we renew this contract, we already have the cameras. We don't need to buy the cameras again.
They're
What does
out
it
of-
look like year 6 to 20?
I think they become out of warranty after the 5 years.
Thank you.
Correct, and my guess is that technology is no longer as,
Obsolete.
yep.
These are
So
also-
we'd be able to,
Update them and, you know, the software updates, as you guys in the IT world know, those things come out faster than we can afford to keep up. But, obviously, we're gonna do our best to follow on what we have here, and as you were probably just gonna explain the next part.
from my understanding, once these come, because it's the purchase aspect, we get the credit for when we trade them in to get the new ones, should that continue.
Okay, so at least we would anticipate that it's a reduction on the next
Correct.
lease.
Unlike, personal, if you were to lease a car, when you're done with the lease, you're done. You get a credit back for what you would be turning back in as a trade-in, essentially. Trying to relate it to another form, I guess, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Hopefully that covers the increased cost between now and 5 years from now.
Agreed.
Well, between that and also, like you mentioned, trying to fund things, that's why we're establishing that police equipment capital reserve to try and assist with kind of leveling out the tax rate where we can.
Okay,
But hopefully it does.
further discussion.
I just want to say, over the past several years, the police department has tried to do what they can to either get these for no cost, get grants to help out, and they have put in the due diligence to try to help out the taxpayer. And they've exhausted all options, so this is going to be, I think this should be the way that we go to help protect our police officers who are out there. They've done everything they can to try and make it as cheap as they can. They weren't able to do it, so we should get these body cams for our officers.
Protects them and protects the citizens as well.
Yes, agreed.
I also think because there is an escape clause in there, the year one kind of is almost a pilot program, because we're not locking ourselves into 1.2 million. We're only locking ourselves into that first year. And if we decide that this isn't working out, then we can just give everything back. So because we're not locking ourselves into the entirety of everything, it kind of is a bit of a trial and an aspect of it.
That was brought up last night
Yeah.
too, and I know that we talked about that. I don't think that's how it works.
So there would likely be a cost associated with terminating the contract, but you
Still
wouldn't,
yeah, it wouldn't be the whole.
you wouldn't have
yeah.
to continue.
Yeah, exactly, yep.
Yeah, having worked on a police department that didn't have body worn cameras, I am an advocate of this. It definitely would have decreased investigation times for complaints, decreased investigation times when there's use of force going on. It seems like a win for me, and we talk about transparency, and we can't be more transparent than having police interactions with the public recorded and documented. So I know there's an expense, but I see the value, and that I believe that we will save some money on decreased investigation times, less legal fees, things like that, because we have these things. More thoughts?
So even one other comment, not related to the police body cams, is, I was talking to Dave Wally yesterday, and he said, yeah, there was another accident plowing snow. And, thanks to one citizen, that stuck around, after the accident, that person was able to explain, this is no. The plow driver was in the right of way, and then the other vehicle T-boned him, and they stuck around and said, no, this is what happened. So it was, and of course, the first person was saying, it's like, well, I tried to stop, he kept going, the whole back and forth thing, but at least someone stayed. So if there was also cameras in those vehicles, that makes that discussion and, determination very quick. So it's a win-win. And especially your comment, Patrick, about, the future costs that we save. It's like, you can't factor that into this equation.
Yeah, and I don't think that future cost savings is gonna be anywhere near this number, but I think there are
But it's some.
future cost savings associated.
Yep.
Further discussion on Article 15? Then I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 15.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. I do appreciate the input that we got on the body worn cameras and from the public and from the chief. That definitely helped us get there. Article 16, to ratify a new collective bargaining agreement between the Londonderry Executive Employees Association and the town of Londonderry. This is for $66,239. Can I discuss the changes? It looks like it changes the insurance opt-out payment, increases them, and I believe that's because the town benefits when somebody opts out of the insurance. It looks like in the first year, there's no cost of living adjustment or merit. In year 2, there's a cost of living adjustment tied to CPI with a minimum increase of 1% and a maximum of 2.5. In year 3, there's a cost of living adjustment tied to CPI, same thing. And there's 95%/5% cost sharing of premiums. Can you elaborate on that?
Insurance.
Insurance.
Okay.
In year 1, there is a salary adjustment for the positions, but no merit or COLA.
Okay. And that's further reflected below in the salary ranges comment where year 1 is there a salary range adjustment, year
Correct.
2 there's 2.5%, year 3 2.5%.
Correct.
Cool. Discussion on Article 16.
I think Glenn's point was really valid earlier. That this is great, like the summary, but you understand my issue with.
I do. I'm just following what legal has told me, and unfortunately, that's what they have told me.
I understand. It's really hard.
I get that.
You know?
Further discussion on Article 16. Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 16.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
That was, chair voted in the affirmative, 6-1. Article number 17, authorization for, do we have to vote on Article 17?
We have in the past.
Yeah, you have in the
For
past.
meeting.
All right, authorization for a
meeting.
special meeting on cost items. Basically, if 16 fails, this authorizes a meeting to look at this bargaining agreement again. Discussion on Article 17. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 17.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 18, to ratify a new collective bargaining agreement between the Londonderry Association of Police Supervisors and the town of Londonderry. This is an increase of $82,000 and change in the first year, $127 and change in the second year, and $99,950 something in the third year. For this year's purposes, it's $82,018 in additional taxes. Town council voted 5-0. Again, there's some changes to the insurance opt-out payment. And the year 1, 2, and 3 are pretty similar to the one we just discussed, except that the maximum, instead of being 2.5%, is 3%
Year 2.
And the minimum is 1.5.
instead of
versus
1.
1.
Yes, correct.
Year 3, it drops back down to 2.5.
Yep.
Okay. Discussion on Article 18.
Same deal. Just want to reiterate, I don't even think that A&Vs are bad deals. Like this, the rates are reasonable as far as year increases.
Mhm.
Just same deal as last one.
Okay. Further discussion. I accept the motion to recommend Article 18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
6-1, chair voted in the affirmative. Article 19, authorization for a special meeting on cost items. Same thing, if Article 18 fails, we could have a meeting to readdress this bargaining agreement. Discussion on Article 19. Accept the motion to recommend Article 19.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 20, to ratify new collective bargaining agreements between AFSCME, Londonderry Administrative Employees Association, and Town Administrative Personnel and the Town of Londonderry. It's $52,491 the first year, it's $77,081 the second year, it's $77,672 the third year. Town council recommended it 5-0. This is,
So this one, the insurance opt-outs are the same as the previous two. This union receives steps instead of a merit. So what happened is this union involves the town clerks, the department assistants, essentially town hall, clerical staff, as well as the facilities managers, custodians, and then the DPW workers. So for everyone but the DPW workers, we had removed the bottom 2 steps and added an additional step at the top. For the DPW workers, we removed the 3 bottom steps and added an additional step at the top. The first year, there's the cost of living adjustment of 2.25. The second year, it's 2.5. The third year, it's 2.5, as well as a 95.5 health insurance split.
I would mention that this is a similar, thing that the town is doing to get rid of some of those bottom steps to bring employees in at a more
Competitive
attractive,
and be able
marketable rate.
to, be able to obtain more employees. We have openings in our DPW because of how low the first step is. And requiring a CDL, they're able to go almost anywhere else and make a significant amount more.
Okay.
Oh,
Discussion.
wait, is this?
I was gonna say, we're talking about the wrong one.
Oh, I'm sorry. This
I
is not the
apologize. That
DPW
is
one.
not the right warrant article. That I was giving you 1801, which is 22.
He was just jumping ahead.
Okay, so let's touch on this one then. This is the town administrative personnel.
Yes. So this is administrative employees for town hall, essentially middle management type situations. Insurance again, the opt-out has increased. This union currently has a 96.4% split for health insurance. That remains the first 2 years. The third year it goes to 95.5. The first year there's a cost of living adjustment of 2.75. The merit remains the same as it did during the previous contract. In year 1, the environmental engineer receives a one-time adjustment of $7,000 based on the market research and where he is compared to where everyone else would be in his field. The cost of living for years 2 and 3 are tied to CPI with a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2.5. Year 3, their health insurance increases from 96.4 to 95.5, and that covers this one.
Discussion on Article 20. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 20.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
No.
Chair voted in the affirmative, it's 6-1. Article 21 is an authorization for special meeting on cost items. Same theory, if 20 fails, we can have a meeting to readdress this bargaining agreement. Discussion on Article 21. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 21.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 22, ratify a new collective bargaining agreement between AFSCME 1801 and the town of Londonderry. 87,071 the first year, 110,988 the second year, 84,243 the third year. Town council voted 5-0 in favor. We just kind of discussed this one accidentally. This is for the town clerks and assistants and public works employees, etc. Discussion on Article 22. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 22.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Chair voted in the affirmative, 6-1. Article 23, authorization for special meeting on cost items. Again, if 22 fails, we can have a meeting to discuss this. Town council recommended it 5-0. Discussion on Article 23. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 23.
So moved.
All in favor? Oh,
Second.
Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 24. Ratify new collective bargaining agreement between AFSCME Londonderry Administrative Employees Association, this is public safety, and the town of Londonderry. First year is 38,501, second year is 48,109, third year is 49,379. Town council recommended it 5-0.
So this is the fire department supervisors, battalion chief, deputy chief, assistant chief, as well as their administration staff. The opt-outs remain as constant, 5, 10, 12. This one, however, the health savings contribution decreases. For a single plan, it goes from 1,000 to 875. For a two-person family, it goes from 2,000 to 1,750.
Is that the town's contribution or the individual's contribution?
The town's contribution.
Okay.
There were additional incentives granted. A EMTA, which is, from my understanding, the newest version of EMTI. Depends on when you got it, is what it's called. So you can either have one or the other. You're not getting 500 if you have both. It's just 250. The fire plans examiner certification is 250 annually. That's only available for the position of fire marshal or division chief of prevention. EMTP, which is an EMT paramedic, if you are an exempt position, it's $1,000 annually. If you are non-exempt, it is $750 annually. The merits remain the same as the current contract through all 3 years. The cost of living in year 1 is 2.5%. The cost of living in year 2 is tied to CPI with a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2.25. The cost of living in year 3 is tied to CPI with a minimum increase of 1% and a maximum of 2, and 95-5 split for health insurance in year 3.
Discussion on Article 24, go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask, probably not, but I'm gonna, can I ask what is the current merit increase?
I believe they are 3%. Let me just verify that right now, if you don't mind.
No, I can wait.
Sorry, I stole yours,
No,
Joe.
you're good. I can read from you.
My bad.
All set.
0 that one out.
And kind of the same question, Justin, about the incentives. Were these incentives new incentives that we put in, or were they existing and we increased the amounts?
So the only one that is new for that is the EMTA. However, it's the EMTI. Just
Okay.
the other ones are new.
The other ones are new?
Yes.
Okay.
It is 3%.
Thank you.
Further discussion on Article 24? I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 24.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Chair votes in the affirmative, 6-1. Article 25 is an authorization for a special meeting on cost items. If 24 fails, it allows us to have the meeting to fix this thing. Discussion on Article 25. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 25.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0.
That's keeping my notes easy.
Article 26, Police Department, add 2 traffic unit police officers. This is to raise $375,017 for the purpose of adding 2 full-time police officers specifically dedicated to work in traffic. The town council recommended this 4-1. Discussion on Article 26.
This is where, for me, I think we're starting to get into wants and not needs.
Okay.
I know this is an ask from the town, but from my perspective, I think I'd like to see a fully staffed department and see what traffic safety looks like when we're fully staffed before we add 2 extra bodies to the role. And I think, Chief, you were asked at the beginning of this is if you were to pick one, the body cams or the 2 traffic officers, you would have selected the body cams. So that's where my mind's at.
You want to speak to that, Chief?
It's kind of a teased question. I was just having this with Miss Paul in the back. It's kind of like trying to choose between your 2 kids, which one's your favorite? You gave it up, but I won't repeat it. I won't do it, because if my kids see this, I'm in deep trouble. It's a great question, and again, this was not the direction coming into this year's budget process, Ryan. Coming into this budget process, it was to right-size lines that I found in the last couple of years as the chief and working with the finance team that were way off. And again, not to go down the old road, and I'll get to answering that question in 1 second. Mr. Bouchard has been very vocal about not filling, and why haven't we, and what are we doing, and why aren't we filling those before? The answer is, I can't, I couldn't, I would not have, because that is Russian roulette with your tax dollars. I ain't doing it. We couldn't do it because so many lines were at or under, extremely under, the proposed numbers to get by. I'll give you one example just to reiterate where we were last year, if you remember me up here. Two of the items that we had talked about was building maintenance and fleet. Building was $18,000 a year. It was given to maintain 2 buildings that are 20 years old back in October. I was given $4,000 a year to maintain 24 cruisers. We paid $5,000 just for oil changes alone. I'm already at $1,000 in the hole. We would spend about $80,000 to $85,000 to maintain cars, brakes, tires, rotors, flares, windshield wipers, mirrors, because cops can't drive too good all the time, and we get hit in mirrors and mailboxes. So all these things add up. The building, again, paint, lights, flooring, all those things add up. And we were spending over 100 around that area too. So if you took those $2 and you called them at least 100K each, 200,000, that's a cop and a half. Because technically speaking, that's one cop with benefits. So there's one cop off the top I can't hire. Training line, the overtime lines, you name it, go down the lines, and we had about $500,000 to $600,000 that we were off. That's why I could not hire. Even though we were budgeted and the community gave us 68 cops, 67 cops, if I filled them to the top, I would be the cause of the budget freeze. I would be the reason that you guys all wanted to kill me. Because you guys would be saying to me, how are we this far over? And I would say, well, because I mismanaged and I hired up adding traffic cops. I'm not doing that. So historically, we haven't filled up because we needed that money to take care of all the neglected lines for a decade. Their direction, they are the experts in that, is why we're here today. We're here today because the proposed budget for the police department is to fix all these years of not going above default.
You guys did a great job.
Well, we're trying, and I appreciate you saying that, because it is a labor of love at times, and, we do get at each other's heads over there with how we're gonna find a way to save it and fix it and right side. It's a challenge, but we do it, and we've been doing it. So to answer that first question, if I had to pick, they both have benefits to the community. The body worn cameras do too. The traffic unit is a sole benefit for the community. So I guess the question is, what do you think? If I had to pick one, if you had me to choose right now, I would say, let's do the cameras because it protects my people. The people that protect you.
Chief, let me ask a question. So if you were able to hire up to 67, is that the number?
We have
68 at this point.
68. So let's say you were able to hire up to 68. Can you estimate how many hours a week would be spent working traffic enforcement?
Well, here's the dilemma.
I know that's a difficult question.
When I proposed my vision as the chief of police, my vision was to increase staffing, not over what we were allotted, but to increase that number to higher up based on the projected numbers that we were allotted. And one of the priorities that I had was if these budgets get corrected, I was gonna put another cop in the school. That would give me 5 SROs. Some may say, that's a lot, you don't need it. I disagree. If I had a kid in a school, I'd want a cop in there. So that's the first place I'd put that other body of the 4 remaining. The other one would be back in detectives. Add an additional detective in there because we're experiencing more, I don't want to use the terminology, white collar crimes, but more sophisticated crimes involving internet scams and things like that. You guys saw the one where Detective Wiggin solved that $1.3 million scam from Yobi, a company in North London area, where he stopped it in time and saved the company from going belly up. Your local police officer did that. $1.3 million is saved while it was being transferred to an offshore account. I would put another detective in there. That's 2. The third one is to bring back the community policing program that we used to have about 18 years ago. We had to cut that way back in the day. So that would be, for example, Officer Benoit and K9 Rio, your favorite.
Yeah.
I remember, you're the first one to take that dog. So to bring that program back and get back to community connection, which is so important, especially in this great town. And then obviously the last one, excuse me, would be the 4th one, and I would add that person on day shift, because days is where we get hammered the most. And we only have 3 patrolmen. Here I am again advertising to the criminals, come to Londonderry. We only got 3 cops on days. So we have 3 patrolmen and 1 sergeant. So we would have 4 on days, 4 on afternoons, and 4 on mids. We haven't done that since, I believe, 2012. So that's where I would have it. So I don't have a traffic unit to create. What I would have to do is therefore come back to you next year and try to recreate this again and call it something different, like adding 2 more cops, 2 more personnel, or come up with some catchphrase that you guys all fall for and get it bought. So I'm trying to hate that word transparent, Ryan, but it's a fraudulent word. But I'm gonna be honest about it. I take the cameras because it protects the people. I'd fill up those positions that are needed because of neglected lines for the last several years. And then if the 2 traffic or the 1 was forwarded by the budget committee, you would see anywhere from 40 hours a week, because that's all their job would be. I wouldn't manipulate the position to add to a patrol personnel somewhere. That would be their sole function. And they'd be supervised for that job. And if there was 2 of the same thing, they'd be working Monday through Friday. They wouldn't be paired up, having coffees together and contemplating lunch. They would be out there splitting the town in half and just hammering on traffic for all the areas that we seem to get lots of complaints at the Traffic Safety Committee from Ms. Paul and other residents in town where their areas are just, riddled with issues. So that's how I would handle it. I know it was a long one. It probably took 4 minutes longer than you needed.
No, I appreciate it.
I hope.
And they would also be in those sectors, if you will,
Of
to,
course, yeah, if
to
there
help
was an
with backup and
emergency-
provide and respond to calls and stuff like that as
Of course.
necessary.
Yeah, they're not gonna sit in their car and wave to them and, while they're going to handle domestic or something, no. That, they would help out, but we wouldn't manipulate that schedule as proposed or granted by the budget committee and the taxpayers for a traffic unit. That would be their sole function on the motorcycle or in the cruisers out enforcing.
And as it stands now, we're only getting about 4 hours of traffic enforcement a week.
That's, 6.8,
6.8, I thought.
6.9,
Okay.
unfortunately. And that was given based on our analyst guy in there who took all the data from the assignments that we get from the Traffic Safety Committee or residents that call and complain or email us. They're the ones that say, hey, my road here, and then we would designate the lieutenant or the watch commander, puts it out for roll call. So all 3 shifts know we better hit Ryan's road because he's in the budget committee, and if we don't show up, he's a no.
Does that work for DPW and the plows?
Absolutely.
I was on Pillsbury Road.
If you're nice, they won't take out your mailbox, I'm told. All right, call me over at something.
So, yeah.
Unless you have something else.
No, so, Chief, thank you for all the presentations that you've done, even back from October, when you went through and really explained this about the steps and, the line items of the budget that were off. And, that was very, very impressive. And also the other things that, the way you guys handle the repairs in the building, choose materials that last longer. Because let's face it, the cost of materials is cheaper than the cost of, the men and women that got to put the pieces and parts back in. So I was very impressed with some of those discussions and points that you brought up back
Yeah,
then.
thanks for that too. And again, our maintenance guy, J.R. Valenti, who's a resident, he's a taxpayer. And, being a contractor for 20-plus years, we benefit that. We collectively, all of us, to have him in there. And when you saw the upgrades that we did in there with the dispatch center, again, based on grants and ARPA funds, you can't get that for what we got it for. And other agencies have been coming here going, how did you guys get that approved? How did you do it? I said, well, our town supports us. We had this grant. We lucked out with that, and we got JR.
And we got a guy.
And we got a guy for that, So thank you for that. It is a lot of work, and we'll continue to do that no matter what you guys decide today. No hard feelings. I know this is business. It's all good. I get it.
Yeah.
So
So if I look at the 2 of these, there was a lot of people that came out those first few days of the budget,
gosh, yeah.
session to say traffic, traffic, traffic.
Yep.
And I agree with them.
Yeah.
Dan Leaka's dog will agree with them.
Yeah.
I see the people that fly down Pillsbury in front of my house.
I know.
Morning, noon, and night.
Yep.
I can tell by the sound of the cars, which ones they are.
Yep.
Sitting in my house with the windows closed. So I'm looking at these 2 and say, I will vote yes for both of them because there was a lot of people in town that complained. And I would say, let them make the decision. My personal choice will be the one to say, let's try it, let's see how it happens. And then if it comes out well, and we still say, hey, we got improvement, but we can do better,
Sure.
let's add one next year.
I appreciate you saying that too. And this isn't just political or cliche, but if we don't have the dialogue now, we're not going to know what to do in the future.
Right.
So we
Right.
get this hammered out now, we talk about it now, and I can tell you 2 things. One, for the amount of complaints that we get, we have over 500 roads in town. This isn't me advocating, I'm just throwing it out there. When we have a directed patrol, it's 15 to 20 minutes, hopefully, at a minimum, before they're called to go somewhere else in town for another call. So if you think about that, if someone's on day shift and they're able to get there once or twice, maybe they're out there for 15 or 20 minutes once a day in that time frame. And a lot of residents say, well, I haven't seen a cop. And then I always, when they call the complaint to me, I say, well, hold on a minute. You have a job, right? I do. What do you work for hours? Oh, I work 9 to 5. So do you work from home? No. So I have information here that the cops were there between this time and this time. And we have seen Litchfield Road has worked when we reduced that speed. We were getting those all the time at the Traffic Safety Committee meetings, all the time. High Range Road, I forget how long it's been now, I'll throw it out there, maybe 5 or 6, 8 years ago. High Range Road was a similar thing. That's changed. Stonehenge, Gilchrist, you name it, we get them. But at the same time, when you have one cop designated to the whole south part of town, which is London, the southern part, we call it Route 3. When you've got Route 3 and there's one cop, you have Woodmont, 102, the highway ramps, you got all the way to the Hudson line to Wyndham, you got it to Derry, and then you're backing up a different sector. So these things kind of take away from those specific complaints on Pillsbury Road and others.
Yep.
But
Okay. Further discussion on Article 26. Thanks, Chief. Yep. All right, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 26.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose.
Opposed.
So chair voted in the affirmative, that was 5-2 in favor.
4-3.
4-3.
My apologies.
4-3.
So Sarah, Ryan, and Jason, you guys are all no's. Okay.
We didn't actually plan that out when we sat up here.
You know what's funny is they're almost, and like when I have the names up at the top for the yeses and nos in my little Excel spreadsheet, they're all 3 of them are.
Everybody's in order?
Yeah,
That's nice,
we're all
okay.
in order.
All right, Article 27.
That's fair.
Police department add 1 traffic unit police officer. The idea of this, which we added, budget committee suggested, and the town council added as a result, was to kind of have a plan B if people wanted to have something that was more palatable than 2 traffic officers. Discussion on Article 20, I'm sorry, I should say, the town council voted 3-2 in favor. The cost is $187,509, as opposed to Article 26, which was $375,017. So Article 27, discussion.
Yeah, just like you said, honestly, this is like great compromise position for like yes and no. See what it looks like initially. We can always scale later. So this is again more than what's existing. I thought that worked out great at a meeting. So
Cool.
Yeah, good job, team.
Further discussion on Article 27.
I still just think it's a want. That's it.
Okay. Brian, you agree? Have we steered you on 27 at all?
Yes, somewhat, honestly. Chief Bernard does a tremendous job. I think we've invested a lot in the police department. This year and in prior years, I think we did a good job right-sizing a lot of things this year. We're doing the body cams. That's why initially my gut says that this is something above and beyond that we should table. But to Jason's point, I'm willing to compromise here, and I think seeing if one works, and if it has a tremendous impact and is leading to a lot less speeding and traffic incidents, then we assess from there. So I think I might have changed my mind here.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 27. Then I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 27.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose.
So 6-1 in favor. Chair voted in the affirmative. Thanks for your honesty there, Ryan. Appreciate the input. Article 28, Library Department, Children's Librarian. This is $122,165 for a full-time children's librarian. The town council voted 2-3 against. It's always confusing to me the way they do this. 2 in favor, 3 against was how the town council voted. Is that correct, Justin?
That is correct.
So,
I think I tried changing it last year and I got questions about changing it, and it's one, I don't know the best way to do this. I guess. Because I think last year I tried changing it where it's 3-2 no, and then I got people saying, well, hold on, why is it switching from left versus right? And
Yeah.
it really depends on how you read it.
Yeah, because if you
But-
do yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and then it's no, yes, and you flip the numbers, and even though it said, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So 3 voted against.
Yep.
I'm voted against. 2 in favor, 3 against. All right, discussion on Article 28.
I think this is a want. I do. I don't see why they do. They already do have an individual there, and one of the things that was discussed was that they need that person help with running. They are bringing in more programs, and maybe they should scale back on the amount of programs that they're providing towards how much staff that they actually have before asking us to add more staff for a situation that they created.
I kind of disagree, mostly because I have kids and I've attended these children programs. They're pretty well attended. There are lots of kids that come to these things. They really seem to enjoy them. And I think if we increase the amount of programming that we do, it's always beneficial to kids, especially with children's literacy programs. Studies have shown as you increase literacy in children especially through public libraries, that really helps in a lot of different other areas, them academically, scholarly. It sort of is like a multiplier effect. So I think the more children's programs we can do, I think the better. I think it's kind of a long-term investment in the future of Londonderry.
So, I like the fact that they followed suit to our recommendation to the police department, and they put in the part-time on Article 29.
Yep.
And the part-time is $32,310, whereas the full-time is $122,165. So for a fourth of the cost, or just barely over a fourth of the cost, we could have somebody working 20 hours in that position rather than somebody working 40 hours in that position. And I realize that my statement there devalues a librarian and their education, and they should be entitled to 40 hours and a living wage rather than having to work part-time. But as far as costs go for taxpayers, I'm in favor of Article 29, but I'm not in favor of Article 28.
Patrick, I would also agree with you, like the 29 versus 28. And, another thing to possibly think about is if we, go into full-day kindergarten, is the amount of children going to these programs. I know weekends are different, but during the day, Monday through Friday, are you going to see a decrease in numbers?
Right, and we don't know that we don't know what hours this librarian would be working. They may not be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, because that may not make sense because the school's going on. But I see your point.
Yeah, and then also for the children's room, there is, I think a full,
There's a director of the
there's a
children's
director of
section,
that of that sector.
Yes.
Yeah, Chief, he joked about it, but it feels like a rebranding of what they came with us 2 years ago. They wanted an extra librarian, now they're gonna call it a children's librarian to help sell it. That's what it feels like to me. I think the library does a tremendous job. I think they've gotten the short end of the stick, and they get picked on a little bit throughout this budget process, more than deservedly. But to the point where I think we need to start thinking about cutting somewhere. Certainly a full-time librarian is a cost that I don't think we need to pass on to the taxpayers at this point.
Cool. Further discussion on Article 28.
So I want to say it's out of principle, just so everyone knows that I'm fighting so hard.
Oh, it's
Out of principle.
I don't
The high raises
direct
and all
that specifically
that.
at you whatsoever.
I know, but I felt like I had to say that to everyone, because that's been a question.
No problem.
So I have two things wrong with this. I think it's definitely a want, as we all discussed. I'm not going to rehash all that. We don't need to. And I think the master's degree is a bit too much. It just feels like college level on a community kind of funding basis, and that's not all right with me. So that's my thoughts on that.
And again, the library takes a beating, but I also feel Joe's point that he made when we discussed this a while back was that we thought Milks, is that what it is? Milks?
G-Milks.
G-Milks, sorry. And again, I was a proponent of that. I thought that was, reasonably short money for a good program. But the idea there was that it would also help alleviate the need for more staff.
That's a good point.
And then the following year, we see this. So at any rate, I think we've belabored that point. So with that, I'll accept the motion to recommend Article number 28.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nope.
Chair voted in the negative. That is 1 in favor, 6 against.
So I just want to clarify, as you mentioned, 2-3 no vote there, it's going to be switched. So that way, whatever one will be on the left, whatever loss will be on the right, and then it'll clarify which one it is by saying no.
Yeah, I think that's how it was done last
Yep.
year, because we saw that with.
Yep, it's
some of
one where the
school
way I
warrant
look at it
articles
is
last year.
all the yeses were on the left, all the nos were on the right, and,
So.
but from what I've heard is it's,
This one
people
for us
prefer it
should
to
read its.
do what won on the left, what lost on the right, and then clarify what it is.
So with
So I
6-1,
will-
we're recommending a no vote.
Right.
Correct, that's how it'll read, and it'll switch 3-2, they're recommending a no vote. I just want to
That's,
clarify.
that-
that's really scary to me. To me, that seems like 6-1, someone won. No one's gonna read the next sentence.
No,
I
no,
want
it could-
consistency.
That's exactly what they did on the kindergarten articles last year. So we were 4-3 against, I think, on one of them. Maybe that was pickleball. I don't remember. But that's exactly what they did. It was with a vote of 4-3. The budget committee recommends a no vote, and the no is big and in bold.
I get that. I don't think people are gonna read it that way. Sports is always like wins, losses.
Fair enough.
And then also same with the score. Yo,
Whose fault was that?
Isn't it not up to us? Doesn't DRA decide this? Okay.
I,
Well,
I'm the one who did it, and I said 2-3 because I said yes. Like how many people voted yes?
Yes,
how many
no,
voted
yes on the
no?
left, no on
Consistency.
the right.
then why don't
Consistency.
why don't we have a table that says the budget committee votes? 6 yeses, 2 nos. Budget committee votes on the
Yeah,
next
make it
one. 1 yes,
crystal
6
clear.
nos, and
Love
not
it.
have the recommend a yes, recommend a no.
I don't know if we can put a table on there,
Yeah.
but I'll try to find a way to make this clearer.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's what we live by.
All right, Article 29. We're done with 28, right? We're good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Article 29. Library Department part-time child librarian. This is for 32,310. The town council recommended it by a vote of 3-2. 3 in favor, 2 against. Discussion on Article 29.
I just think I don't know. It's one thing if you're gonna split 2 positions to 1. It's another thing if you're gonna split a full-time position to a half, like you said. If you want a position, it needs to be a full-time position. That's how I feel about it. I don't see the room to compromise on this one. You either want the position or you don't. I don't know.
Fair enough. It's half the position for a fourth of the cost, though.
Because you don't have to pay benefits.
Insurance, yeah.
Yep.
One of the things that I remember Aaron talking about, I believe it was last budget session, and it was about how it's hard to fill those part-time roles because of the degrees that these individuals, so like for this individual, they'd have to have their master's. And to attain that degree, that puts them in, X amount of debts, and they're looking for jobs that are gonna help pay that off. And so it's harder to fill these part-time positions. I just don't think it's wise to put it on there. Well, it's on there. But I personally, I don't believe in supporting it. I don't know if this is just going to be an unfilled position, not because they aren't trying to fill it, but because it's difficult to fill. Like we're running in with other departments where starting it's too low to just start to fill these positions. So I'd be concerned
I would
that.
disagree with that, mostly because librarians tend to run more towards, I hate to be gendered about this, but there are more women who choose librarians as positions than men. And some mothers are looking for those part-time hours with a degree. And so we have a very highly educated populace around here. So it is possible that somebody with that degree is only looking for part-time work.
Oh, fair enough.
So.
That's a good point. All right. Further discussion on Article 29? All right. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 29.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
No.
Oppose.
Chair voted in the affirmative, so that was 3 in favor, 4 against. Correct?
Correct.
Article number 30, Beautify Londonderry, welcome to Londonderry signs. So this is to raise $20,000 for the purposes of replacing the Welcome to Londonderry signs, 10,000 of which would come from Beautify Londonderry is the idea.
That they will be submitting 10,000 at least.
Okay.
Is that a guarantee?
Yes.
And we discussed last night that if they raised more than 10, it would just decrease the portion that the town would be paying.
If they offer it up, yes. We cannot force them to,
Okay?
but they would be able to offer it up, and at that point, we'd put it as a revenue to decrease the tax impact for the voters.
Okay. The town council recommended it 5-0. Discussion on Article 30. Okay, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 30.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, that's 7-0. Article 31 is, oh my God, it's still going. Establish an expendable trust fund for additional overtime in public safety under RSA 31:19-A. This is to take $200,000 from the undesignated fund balance and put it in a fund which will be available to use for public safety overtime. It would require a 4/5 supermajority vote of the town council in order to allow the town staff to access this for those purposes. The town council voted 4-1 in favor. Discussion on Article 31.
So just for clarification, for the supermajority, it's either they can vote 4-1 or 4-0. So if there's only 4 individuals, you cannot have a no vote. You can't have just 3. 3-1 doesn't work. The other comment is all we're really doing, I think, is just taking money from the undesignated fund balance and putting it into this fund that would allow us, if by chance we needed it, that it's easily accessible versus going to the Supreme Court, going to.
More easily accessible.
More easily, yes. Going to the Supreme Court, getting
having to
with
petition the
lawyer
state.
fees, et cetera. Do we have to do a special
We'd have, it would be done at a town council meeting.
town council meeting, not out to the town to vote?
Correct.
Okay.
Town council meeting.
So the additional cost is even if we went over $1,000 over this $200,000 limit, we would still have to go to the Supreme Court. There's lawyer costs and et cetera for that to.
If
go
I'm
that
not
way.
able to pull from other capital reserves to lower the
Right.
amount from the appropriation.
Okay.
And Justin, just out of curiosity, should every warrant article pass that's taking money out of the UBF, and putting it into other funds, how many monies do we have left in UBF?
Give me 1 second, because we took off.
Taking 900,000 out of it if all of them
So it'll be
pass.
about 6.7 mil left.
If you beat Justin, I'm gonna be impressed.
No, I wrote it down from last night.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere thereabouts.
How quickly Justin does it is really.
It's
like,
amazing.
yeah, wizard.
I think Dave had him there.
You did.
Not close?
I didn't
Harry
update this from
Potter.
last night yet. I believe that was the only switch. So you had said 900,000?
Well, that's what we believe is coming out,
Yeah.
because last night you said
Yeah.
1,050,000 and we dropped it by
Yes.
150.
Yes.
Yeah, so it'd be about 6.7.
It's 900,000, yep.
No, what would be left?
Yeah,
Oh. Yeah.
6, 7?
Sorry, I just like to get exact rather than, about 7.8.
Okay.
We'd still have 7
No.
No.
I transposed that number.
8.7.
It's late, and it was a long night last
Oh, it
night.
was brutal.
6.9.
6, 9.
6-9 is what we left, okay.
Okay.
And,
I-
and
that's
what are the
just-
benefits for keeping that number at a reasonable number? Just a quick couple bullets.
Well, right now with higher interest rates, it allows us to earn more interest that we can offset the tax rate with.
However, this would still be earning interest in the same way or a very similar way.
Not this one. This one would earn interest for itself.
Okay,
But overall,
But
it's still
the
interest.
rest of the UFB goes towards the interest revenue for the town, which is a revenue category which decreases the amount that we need to request from the voters.
right. This wouldn't earn money that would be considered revenue in the future. It would grow, though, on its own.
Correct.
Based on the interest.
Correct.
Okay. There's no provision in there that you can put the interest into the general fund?
No.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 31.
Discussion. Yeah, I honestly, I think the budget is healthy as is. I was never a big fan of this warrant article. I think I don't like having this be UFB at all. I'd rather see that UFB somewhere else. If people want to go further that way, great. But as it stands, definitely don't like it.
And I just one final thought on this. The purpose of the proposed budget was to right size some of these lines and put some padding into overtime so that we wouldn't have to worry about, you know, budget freeze or some of the prior issues that we've had. If those, to kind of share Jason's viewpoint, if those lines were not, I don't know,
Already
just
being corrected.
properly lined, then why, you know, why do we have this warrant article in here establishing this fund? I guess unless, but even in the case of emergency, it's been, we've been told that the council could request that money comes from UBF if there's some sort of emergency, like a tornado or a giant fire takes out half the town, and we have these individuals on overtime. So I don't see if we're already working towards in the budget itself, getting these lines where they need to be, why we'd need this additional fund.
I see your point, Joe, and that's kind of what I was talking about last night, is that I feel like we're budgeting for this overtime expense in two places. And I pushed for reducing that a bit last night, and to some degree that happened. But I feel like, you know, Ryan, you made good points that the overtime budget for the fire department is, you know, a safe estimate. Let me say that. And this adds more extra safety to make sure there's enough, but I see your guys' point. I'm kind of on the fence here.
But it also includes DPW, fire, and it's not just, no, DPW and police.
That is a fair
It's
point.
just not fire, because we've
Yeah.
been
You're right.
targeting fire for that, a lot of that discussion,
Yeah.
but
Have
no,
they
this
had any
impacts
issues in
everybody.
the past? They haven't.
That is true.
My personal test, if I can add, is like, would I do it if it didn't have UFB? Right? Like, seriously, like, would I pay for it this year if it didn't have UFB? If it wasn't zero? Like, I can't say I would.
Okay. Justin, you want to comment?
So in
No,
terms,
this is kind of your baby, right?
I was the contingency fund to start, where it was every year you'd have to reapprove, and essentially it would stay in the general fund. It would earn its own. It would earn interest for the general fund, and it just essentially acted as a safety net catch-all. This puts it to the side where, not to the side, but it puts it in its own fund where it can grow on its own. If you fund it at, you know, the 200 we have now, and we don't touch it for 5 years, it has interest that's earned for 5 years and everything of that nature. In terms of the overtime, the fire department's overtime is what they believe will maintain staffing at 13, no matter what were to occur. That's what their estimates and their beliefs are on that. If you were to look at police overtime, it's below default, and it's not as adjusted. It's not above default like the fire is. Same with DPW. You are correct, however, that they have not experienced issues, and if they were to go over in the overtime, they were to make sure that they are below budget somewhere else.
Right.
So I also worry that it could potentially become like pinning each department against each other. Like, oh, well, you use the overtime and now we're scrapped. You know, like sharing those line items is kind of dangerous too. I don't want any sort of fighting.
Essentially, as I somewhat explained yesterday, what we would use this fund as an example, if we had last year, we'd go to the council, explain the situation, explain what's happening. If they were to approve, we wouldn't draw on it until year end, when the full appropriation of the operating budget would be drawn down.
Okay.
It would be a last case scenario of essentially, rather than, you know, as I mentioned yesterday, it was 500,000, which is about 1% of the budget. Not a lot. If that all of a sudden were to be at, $20, that's when we'd start looking at this, but we'd request it sooner. In terms of pinning against each other, it's more intended for, and I'm not picking on fire, it's more intended, looking at another department. We have a 10-day snowstorm. That's a lot of overtime for our DPW guys, a lot of double overtime that the budget may not be able to handle. It's more situations like that. Police, if we were to have, I don't want to go extreme, but serial killer type situation, or one of those. I'm going straight for it. But it would be something like that. It's not. I don't intend for this. This wasn't intended to establish for a every day, every year. It's intended to put it and hopefully not need it, but not have to go to the state and petition the state should something like that occur, where we don't have the option for FEMA or another source to cover it like we did with other aspects.
And one thing, this came about when the contingency fund, when we brought up the contingency fund, the one thing the council had asked was, can we have something that doesn't go away after a year? So the contingency fund every year would have to be bought back to the ballot. This, if you fund it once, and like Justin said, if you don't touch it, you don't necessarily have to fund it the next year. It will stay there, accumulating interest, but we're not adding to it. Okay. So I think it came about because they wanted something more permanent.
Yeah, and if we don't start something now, then there's no account to start accumulating interest now, and there's no compounding interest on that accrues over time. So it almost feels like the later we do this, the worse off we'll be.
Well, it's
Still
generating
generating interest in
income
UPF.
for.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we're
The
still
general
generating
fund.
income in the UFB. That's a fair point.
No, it's not. It's not. This
This
particular
won't,
one will
but
not.
if
That
we're-
interest will accumulate and
Right, I
stay
mean,
in that.
if it didn't go through.
Right.
Right, it would stay in the, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're right.
It would
That's
stay
right.
in the
Never mind.
UFB,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So to take the money out, the only way to do it is what you described at the end of the budget season, end of the budget year, is through what you described with the town council, et cetera, et cetera.
I can't guarantee what the next finance director or the next town manager will
Right.
do.
Right.
But I would not look to draw on this until
It happens.
we
It's
don't
needed.
have the appropriation within the budget.
Right.
So, using simple numbers, we're appropriated $40 million and our expenses is $40,100,000 because of a snowstorm, a big event that isn't covered by FEMA or something else where we can request reimbursement from the federal government. I can't guarantee that for the next finance director, or
It's the future.
if, one of the chiefs decides they want to go above me, or not above me, but go straight to the council with it and avoid my opinion on it.
Yeah. So essentially what I'm trying to get at is once this money's in this type of fund, it's there until it's needed.
Until
So
it's needed,
could-
or until the voters dissolve the fund.
Dissolve it, so it can be dissolved if we decide or make that request.
Correct.
Which would be another warrant
It
article.
would be another warrant article. The council cannot do that on their own. The town cannot do that on their own. It would be a warrant article, and the voters would have to dissolve it.
Through the process.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good. Further discussion on 31?
Just random question. Can you remind me, do we still have the town planner position in the budget?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
still in the
okay.
budget.
And is that position still vacant?
The answer is yes. There's an offer on the table.
Okay. Well, hypothetically, right? Vacant positions, if you vote for the actual appropriation, like don't vote for default, right? Like you do have the flexibility to find additional money in your budget.
And that's what we've been doing, is we've been using open positions as our safety net, or to cover for lines that weren't correct. And I think the effort over the last 3 to 5 years has been to write those lines so we didn't actually have to use open positions to do that. So we could staff the way it's currently intended. And this, I think, is another step, and again, I was on the fence, but this is, I think, is another step to help avoid having to do that.
It's kind of going both ways, right? Because so you're gonna have the vacant positions and you're right-sizing the lines, right? Like, and you're have another fund, right? Like
Like double dipping.
pick two.
Fair enough. I like the fact that that it's gonna stay there and grow and be there in the future, should we need it at some time when there's an natural disaster or an emergency event or some kind of something going on. I like that idea. And I hope that that is how it's used.
Because it's still making interest, regardless if you undesignated fund or this fund. It's still income to the town.
So this one, though, it will only go to this fund.
Right, we got
Just-
this.
Yes.
Yes, but it's, if you look at the whole budget, or
Yeah.
the whole town, it's still coming into the pockets.
All right. If there's nothing further, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article number 31.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Name.
Opposed?
So that is 4-3 in favor, chair voted in the affirmative. Did I get that correct? So, Joe, Sarah, and, Jason, I always wanna call you Justin, I'm sorry. It's his fault. It's his fault.
I always get called Jason, so.
All right, Article number 32, Phase 7 of the rail trail, to see if the town will vote to raise $641,000, 113 of which comes from the Londonderry Trailways Committee, 422 and change of which comes from the state of New Hampshire in a grant. The actual tax impact is only 105,598. Town council recommended it in 3-2, 3 in favor, 2 against. Discussion on Article 32.
So I do want to say that I initially was opposed to this, but knowing what Kirsten said last night about having the grant go away, and it's a significant grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm for it. That's all I
Me
just
too.
wanted to
Yeah,
say.
spending $1 to get 6 is a pretty good deal.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And isn't this the last phase of the rail trail too? Like, once
Yes,
we do
and
this,
then
we're
it'll
done?
be done.
Fini.
Like, we get all this grant money and then we're done? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah, one-time expense.
Yep.
And then if you look at the last one we got, I think it was what, 60-40, I don't know who
Yeah, it
had
was
the
not
60.
this favorable.
You know, it was not as favorable as this.
Yeah.
This is 80-20, it's like, yeah,
Yep.
winner, winner.
All right, so it seems like we don't need any more discussion on Article 32. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article number 32.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Joe, second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair voted in the affirmative, 7-0. Article number 33, this is the citizen petition to replace library furniture. It's to appropriate $40,000 from the UFB. The town council voted against this, 5-0. So 0 in favor, 5 against. I think we can partially, I don't mean to preemptively avoid some discussion, but I think this is a terrible idea. I think it sets a bad precedent, as there were some comments from the public which pointed that out, and comments from the dais last night which pointed that out. I think the library director asked for $2,500 for furniture, and she knows best what she needs right now, and it's not 40. So I'm against this. Further discussion on 33.
There's no details behind how they came up with this number.
Fair enough.
0.
I also don't love the idea that somebody can just petition money to come from the undesignated fund balance for
Agreed.
whatever it is that they want.
Sets a bad
I
precedent.
think it sets a bad precedent for, good things going forward.
And 40 is still spelled wrong.
Oh, it's
We did keep it as is, as was submitted.
You have to,
oh
right?
boy.
So minor ones like that, you can. However, where it's a citizen's petition, I believe in just sending it as is and then amending it at deliberative.
Okay.
Yep.
That's just my own personal thought, and if the council or somebody else would overrule it, we could, but this is how it was submitted, this is how the people signed it. Send it to deliberative, have them amend it at that point.
So did the person who submitted this, they didn't show up?
Petitioner was
No
not.
show.
Okay. Well, if petitioner, if you are watching this session of the budget committee, could you please email the budget committee how this $40,000 would be spent? Because I'm curious as to how you came up with that number. But I'm not supporting this.
Motion to reject Article 33.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a
Yes,
motion.
no, I thought you meant like taking it off the thing. I was
We
like,
can't,
nope. You're
we
right.
have a motion.
Okay, yes.
Can I say to not
Not
recommend
recommend.
Article number 33, which is confusing because we were doing it the other way all night. That's okay.
Yeah.
Motion to not recommend Article number 33 has been proposed and seconded. All in favor of not recommending Article number 33?
Aye.
Any opposed to not recommending Article number 33? Okay, so that was 7 in favor of not recommending. Article number 32.
So if we remove the negative, the double negatives, it's 0 yes, 7 no if you,
So yeah, we're looking at,
yeah.
we're all against it. Fair
We're all
enough?
against it.
Ryan's not allowed to make any more motions.
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
Joe's fault.
Yep.
All right, Article number 34, citizens petition 100% property tax exemption for permanent and totally disabled veterans. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory right there. The town council did not vote on this, and they're gonna vote on it at deliberative to give time,
I thought it was illegal or something.
to evaluate the legality of it.
So in terms of whether or not they need to provide a recommendation or not, we sent this to our legal team, and they came back with an explanation that it is illegal and therefore not enforceable.
Okay. But we don't have an answer yet on whether it is
Whether
monetary.
we need to provide a recommendation, you can obviously not provide one as well. But in terms of providing it or not, I'm gonna reach out and see if we do.
Okay, so do we want to vote on this tonight and give our opinion? Or do we want to wait until deliberative and find out what they have to say and then give our opinion?
I would follow town council's lead.
Follow town council.
Okay,
Yep.
then I think we have a consensus there. So we'll vote on it at the deliberative. We don't need to vote on Article number 35, and the town is done. Yay! Okay. School,
Motion to open public comment?
yes. We have a motion to open public comment. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Joey in favor?
Do we want to wait to give
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
5-minute break?
Okay.
Okay.
5-minute recess, and then we'll start public comment. We don't need to vote on that. Dear God.
No.
I'd rather 5 minutes of sleep.
I know. I'm ready, just,
I don't think my 9 o'clock goal is gonna happen.
No, it's passed.
Already passed.
Sorry.
I feel good about our 12.
Oh, we're gonna be.
But you know what?
School is.
The school has 12.
Yeah.
Did they have 12?
Yeah, but it
So-
took us 2 hours to do the town, so if a third of that's 40 minutes, that's not good.
these are pretty simple though,
Yeah,
pretty operational.
Yep.
agreed.
Your mouth to.
Yeah, right?
To the voters' ears. Yeah, 5-minute recess, yep, sorry. That 5-minute recess started at 9:04.
I want you reading next year.
Oh, I
the
could
town
read those
council.
way faster, and Sean read really fast. I
Sean
like,
was
"You should
awesome."
read 'em
He
all."
is wicked fast.
He was good. He was good.
Does he do auctions? No.
No, but he should.
In terms of the numbers?
Yes.
I got sidetracked out back with some residents here. Just a few.
Right, which numbers are you looking for?
16.
Okay, hang on. 16. Hey, look at that. 6-1.
It's not gonna go to
4.
Okay.
So 6. I'm going to give you yes, no on
Yes,
every.
yeah. I don't care about the other things. Okay. 18.
Depends,
18, 6, 1.
That last
like,
word again.
the election happens quite,
Oh, the lawyer.
right word, I can't think.
Members.
Yeah, new
6-1.
members.
Yes.
Do liaison reports.
2.
6-1. Yes.
That's pretty much about it. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
Just this time it's very intense.
Hey, that's okay. I think it's been going well.
You guys put in a lot of work.
Well, listen, if you guys are doing school, I'm not sticking around for school stuff, but I'm good.
Good luck.
Tours. I mean, that's where I met you.
Hey, I got a sticker on my car.
Yeah.
Sticker on my car.
You should.
I did. I did.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
The beginning of the year holds so much promise.
Yep.
Buildings are all.
It literally blew. Like, yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip, I'm not sticking to school stuff. I'd love to, but not tonight. Good to see you, thanks.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you.
Do you love skiing?
Enjoy.
I haven't been in 17 years.
guys
My
are out of
son
here soon.
took school into ski club, did all the ski lesson stuff, and now he's old enough where I can just
You're a wonderful
go with he
speaker.
goes with his friends. And so I was like, he's like, Mom, you should come. I know you haven't been in a long time, but you should come. And I was like, sure. So my first injury I got, well, I did get it. I'm gonna have a big bruise right here. But I went off the chairlift, and as I was getting off the chairlift, now keep in mind I haven't been skiing in like 17 years. I forgot how to stand up as your skis are hitting the lift, and so the chair's going around the corner. I'm still sitting. I panic and I just jump off the chair.
Yep.
So my knee hit, one of like the wooden platforms with the things on that the lift's on. Yeah. I get up, I'm fine, everything's good. I keep skiing. That was second run of the day, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then this. So I've got a big bruise here. I've got my knee here. My arms and my shoulders are killing me because I've never used crutches before. This is like my first big injury. You're supposed to use your arms, and I have almost no upper body strength whatsoever. Like I run and like I do the Stairmaster, and so like almost all of my strength is like waist down.
Core down,
It's
yeah.
all on my legs. So yeah, it's
You get all the like the notifications on your phone.
So the first day I took my daughter skiing,
No, I see
she was
the
5. Wicked fast. We go up the bunny thingy, whatever. Twice, like, it was like, catch her, grab her, and like after like 4, 5, 6 runs, like she's doing pretty good. So it's like we go up to the next chair up, begin a trail. It's like, hey, let's go this way. So it's okay, fine, you go that way. She was like, like going over the little bumps in the ski in the terrain park thingy. And it's like, so I'm videotaping her on this one. She comes down, she hits the bump instead of off the side, right in the center. Here's this plank. She's paralleling the plank, going down the plank, and I have this whole thing on video. What happens when she hits the end of the plank? Skis go down head first. Is like, oh my god, I just killed her. I have the whole thing on video, and it was like, she was fine.
Yeah.
But it's like you could just watch her. She's like, boom, lands on it. She's riding it perfect. And she goes, I don't know what to do. She's probably thinking, what do I do next? But the ski tips fell, and it's like.
My dad can tell me because he used to take care of my.
But the crazy thing is like, what was the chance that I got that? Like,
so cold though. For like the first time in 25
but yeah, it was. Yeah, she's good at it. She's good at it now.
Yeah.
It's like I just wanted to take her back, and I just wanted to learn something more than I did. So I was like, all right, let's go again.
I'm sure I'll be back. I hit ice, I slipped my skis, and
15,000
Yeah.
people inside.
I'll ski anything.
It was
I've been
just
skiing since I've been
nuts.
5.
And then the
Yep.
day
I've been
before,
skiing since
I
I was
worked
like
the
9,
rally.
10, so yeah.
So I got in right when it was starting to rain.
JP could, help deep trees.
Getting things
Before
set
anybody
up.
was
And then
even,
once they opened the gates
in
and
vogue,
started letting
I
people
was,
through,
one of those dudes that
just
knew where
absolutely,
everything
they
was.
flooded in.
And you name it, we
I
hit it.
definitely
It's like
loved
at
it.
4 o'clock, I
The
could go
one
down
thing
that
that took me
mountain.
by surprise, because I've been to DC a few times before, and I was just Uber around. I forgot they closed everything off with gates. So they had rickshaws, people in rickshaws and bicycles, built to take you.
It's
around
9:09.
All right.
5 minutes up.
Let's bring it back.
Different, but loved it.
We don't need to come out of recess or anything, do we?
No. Yes.
Okay, we already had a motion and a second, and it was approved to open public comment for the school side. Take it away.
All right. Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. Thank you for allowing public comment at the end of the meetings. I sincerely appreciate it. I just wanted to give you 2 points of reference for history on 2 of the articles. The first one is the master plan. I have sat on 3 master plans in this town, as well as the Best Town Initiative and the Best Schools Initiative. The reason why this plan is being piecemealed, kinda, it's just an update. The $150 one, $50,000 one, was we hired a whole agency to do it from scratch, to like throw out the whole concept that we were doing and go through a form-based zone, and to really be able to have a more living, breathing document. One of the things that I had wanted in there was the implementation committee, which we formed, which was to keep it changing and moving. What this is just to revise, not a full-blown one, but just to revise pieces of it. So to basically go through it, see what's missing, and add to it. The biggest cost to it is the fact that, we did not have a planner, and so, or a full planning department, excuse me, and so therefore, we have been paying Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, Sylvia, very nice woman, very smart, very intelligent, very capable of doing this procedure. We're paying her like $127 an hour
Okay.
to do this sort of stuff. So that's I just wanted to let you know, that's where the costs were. When we did it before, they had Planapalooza, and they had banners, and they sent out mailers, and they had a ton of, and this isn't over yet, and they're probably still gonna do those things for that. The other one is Beautify Londonderry. My husband was the person who started Beautify Londonderry. We brought it up to Mr. Oswell, and at the time was town councilor, and we moved it forward. and they used to fundraise, and then what happened was it got to be part of the town, and they got a large chunk of change basically because they became part of the solid waste, and they never really figured out whose monies was whose, which one came from fundraising. As I was sitting into meetings, I would talk to them about it. So just so you know, I mean, I love Beautify Londonderry, think it's great. I just don't know how they're gonna be able to afford to fundraise for those funds. But, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, that, actually, you might be right, they might already have the 10 raised.
Yes,
I think so.
they do.
I'm glad you said that, that jarred my memory.
They're looking to do additional fundraising too.
That's good.
Siri's trying to give public comment. These are not meant for short people. So just a point of observation.
Name and address again, I'm sorry.
My name is Maura Ryan. I live at 2 Snowberry Hollow. Just a point of observation, if people are putting in citizens petitions and you want them to speak to them at these meetings, you should probably tell them that you're going to discuss them.
Fair enough.
Because I don't know, but I don't think they were at yesterday's meeting. I don't think they were at today's meeting, and I don't know if you do notice them. So that would probably be helpful. And I do know that there are a lot of rules around citizens petitions, but it's supposed to give the people the voice in their own government, and they're supposed to be very minimally. There are criminal penalties if you don't move them forward, just because you don't like them.
Absolutely.
So-
And we're moving them forward.
That being
I
said,
definitely think that's a good point, that maybe in the future, the petitioner should be notified that we're probably gonna have questions for them at either the school meeting or the town meeting or the budget committee meeting. We wanna make a note of that for next year.
So on the town website, under the budget documents, I have information regarding submitting a citizens petition warrant article that has dates to remember: January 14th, 2025, Tuesday, which is the deadline to submit with at least 25 signatures. January 20th, 2025, Monday, public hearing regarding the town's budget and the warrant articles, and including any petition warrant articles. The town council will vote in favor. Please, and then at the bottom, please note at least one petitioner should attend the budget meetings, including but not limited to the public hearing on January 20th and the deliberative session on February 8th. This will allow the petitioner to answer any questions that may be asked on the petition warrant article and speak on behalf of the petition warrant article.
Thank you.
and that's fine, but have you tried to navigate the town website? It's very difficult and it's not user-friendly, and I'm sure no one saw that.
That's
And that
fair.
they can go to the Secretary of State's office, in which they wouldn't see that. I mean, there are many other avenues to try and do something like that.
Perhaps we can give them some kind of documentation when they submit the citizen's petition. Here's the dates of the meetings that you should probably make an appearance at.
Yeah, I mean, if you even gave the paper to them at whatever point, that would be helpful.
I'm sure the clerk could look into that. If I could.
So now you're going on to the school stuff?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
Just one comment to, like, at least for the Article 12, the citizen petition on the school board, we did have Christine Perez, as a,
Oh, yes, she was there.
spokesperson for that one, so,
Yeah, but she went on her own and she didn't know if she had to or not. She just sort of,
she was there.
yeah, she was there. She was there, and that's actually my question. So is that petition moving forward? Because I knew,
All of
By
the
law.
petitions are moving forward.
Yes.
well, she withdrew it,
No.
She
Well,
can't.
withdraw it when
can't
and
she
then it was like, oh, no, I don't withdraw it because it was a mistake. So I just want to make sure.
Yes, it is moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I did ask a bunch of questions about it, and given what Kate mentioned, and looking at some of the differences in the dates, and then I even actually went in and looked at there's like 2 RSAs that relate to this thing. One of the RSAs is the definition of the local tax cap. The second one, which is referenced here, is how to implement it. And so, and then like you start looking at the details in this thing, it's like, bits and pieces from both of them, to me, that, and it didn't make any sense. And that's in my opinion, after reading it. And I know the school was gonna go and I think pass it off to their lawyer to say, what their statement was, but, I was reading, is like, what are we trying to do here?
Well, I mean, I suppose I have issue with that somewhat only because a lot of times the state will pass a law because it's saying, okay, town, you can make a determination as to whether or not you want to do this.
Right.
But you always have the option of local control, so you always have the option of doing more. And that's part of the way our state runs. I mean, other states are not like that per se. But so she has that in there, and I know that whether you agree with it or not, I feel like, you know, it should be, you know, we should have public feedback, and you guys don't get a lot of it. So when you get stuff like this, I really feel like you should look at it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
Just one thing when it comes to citizens petitions. During my first budget season, I remember there's a citizen petition, warrant article to, believe it was asking to raise $7,000 for the pickleball study. And I voted no. It was a small amount of money, but the reason why I voted no was because no one came to the budget committee to discuss the warrant article or why they came up with that amount. So I had no idea because the petitioner didn't come up. It wasn't until deliberative that I found out that the petitioner had been working with members of the town government to come up with how to formulate the warrant article and how they came to that exact amount of money. And I wish I had known that, but by the time deliberative came around, that's way too late to be figuring out this information for the petitioner to be trying to convince us as to why we should be supporting those articles. So if you have a citizens petition warrant article and you are at home, just give us your thoughts, email the budget committee. You can find that information on the town's website. You can give us the information that we need to make an informed decision when we vote. So that's just all I have for it, because it's year after year, and usually the people who make these citizens petitions are involved in the town, or the people that sign on to them are involved, and they show up to meetings. Just give us the information so that we can make informed decisions. That's all.
Is it possible that, you know, we tabled a couple of them to be voted on at deliberative? Maybe that should be more of a policy going forward, that the town council and the school board and the budget committee vote on the citizen petition warrant articles at deliberative, because that is a more likely scenario where the petitioner would be there. I know you can't change that. I'm just making notes for future reference. Go ahead.
So you didn't close public comment, so I want to say something else. More Ryan 2 Snowberry Hollow, sorry. The other thing I was going to say is it disturbs me that you guys hang your hat on legal opinion so much, because that is just the opinion of an attorney. And they can cite a court case and I can cite 10 others that say something different. So it bothers me that happens a lot and there's so much faith, because it's really not. If you go into a court of law, yeah, there's legal precedents that might be in your favor, but it's a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen. And I don't know if you guys know this, but you do have insurance for, you know, because you got risk liability insurance bundles, which pay for your lawsuits as long as you prevail. So you're not putting anything out because you're paying for insurance. And you have insurance in case of catastrophic incidents. So I didn't know if you knew that, but you do have that, because NHMA is very involved in the town, and they're the ones who like put all that stuff together.
I know, I think the seeking of legal opinions is to make sure we're not, you know, stepping on any tripwires, basically. You know, we're trying to avoid pitfalls.
I understand that, but it's not the end all be all either.
Fair enough.
You know,
Just, I don't
I
think,
mean, at the deliberative session last year, Deb put in a citizen's petition that they made advisory, and they shouldn't. And if she had filed a Rule 12, she would have won, frankly. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Good evening, one more time. Patrick Alazim, 22 Summer Drive. Am I assuming correctly that, as with the town piece, you're going to have public comment and then close it, and we won't have the ability to comment on these individually?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay. I'm just asking because I want to be respectful of your time. Regarding Article 2, then, just a quick comment here. I can see both sides of this one. As Londonderry gets a newer, younger demographic, younger families, people moving into Woodmont and so on, I can certainly see that perhaps there is a need and a demand for full-day kindergarten. The flip side is this is a substantial bump to our property taxes. And if you go on, for example, the United States Department of Education and look at their data, for the last 6 straight years, school enrollments in New Hampshire, they don't break it down by town, have been dropping year over year every single year. I would ask, in consideration of this article, is there actually data that backs up that there is a real need here? Or is this just, let's say, a school system perhaps looking for growth in and of itself? So,
Let me speak to that if you don't
Sure.
mind. So, this is a significant reduction over the plan last year for both the expansion of the kindergarten building and the adding of full-day K. It also solves our problem with the fact that we're leasing the building that the administrative offices are in. So we're leasing a building on the north side of town for the school administrative offices to the tune of $200 and something thousand, $260?
220 a year.
220. And this plan will establish a portion of the Moose Hill building for the school administrative offices, and it gets us out of that lease, where that lease is up in 2 years, 3 years?
3 years.
3 years, and then we don't know what that lease is going to be, because we'll be at the mercy of the building owner. So it has a couple of positives. It's a much more cost-effective plan than was put forward last year. And part of why it's more cost-effective is because it's taking into account not a decreased enrollment, but not the increase in enrollment that the school board was expecting. Right? They had a company come in and do a study to give them what they expected the numbers to be on future classes, and those numbers have kind of come in lower. So that company, the company's estimates were a little high.
Yes.
And this is stuff we've been discussing at the school board meetings.
I remember some of those discussions, yes.
So, I think in light of that, they've come up with this plan to add modulars to the 3 elementary schools, rather than the build-out that they were talking about last year. And they're using that same opportunity to solve a second problem, being the school administrative offices.
Okay, so thank you very much for that extra explanation. That helps me understand that. In that case, I might comment that, at least from a fiscal perspective, it would, to me, make more sense to separate out two things that are really two distinct things. One is offices, the other one is a full-day kindergarten. Having these conglomerated together, with all due respect, comes across as somebody trying to get one thing by justifying it by the other thing.
The modular classrooms open up the space in Moose Hill in order to be able to get out of the administrative offices building. So I think that's why it's together. And doing this, and again, I struggled with last year's. Because of the cost. And this is a much, much better plan. We saved $260,000 a year not having midday bus runs. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Amity. We get increased revenue from the state by having full-day kindergarten. And actually, we just got an email from the chair of the school board, which I forwarded today. Was that today? Yesterday and today, kind of running together. Which said that it's the funding we're going to get from the state by having full-day K is actually greater than what they thought originally, and sooner than what they thought originally. So this project becomes, what are the words I'm looking for? A cost benefit to the taxpayer within 2 years, I believe.
2 or 3.
Within 2 years, we're spending less than we are today.
That's interesting. All right, thank you for the extra context. I don't want to
Okay,
belabor it.
and I'm sure at the school board deliberative, they'll have the paperwork which illustrates that, but it's shocking to me that we can make this move and be saving money in 2 years, and it's a really good plan.
And the savings grow.
The savings.
And the savings grow, yes, that
Yeah.
savings in year 2 is gonna increase, and there's more in year 3, and there's more in year 4, and that, I don't have that slide from the presentation, but it's pretty illuminating. I would encourage you to, where can you find that, Amity?
So, we are gonna launch a website that has all the questions and all the slides as to what the savings would be. We just had to update because we had to change our calculation because we would get more money from the state for the kindergarten grant. So I'd say by the end of the week.
When
it
you
will
say
be-
"we," just for my own clarity, that means the town or
The school district,
school district,
londonderry.org, and once it's launched, it will have a link right on the front page for kindergarten information.
Londonderry or Londonderry NH?
Nope, londonderry.org is the schools.
Okay, thank you very
I mean, I
much.
think this is a rare opportunity that us spending this money is gonna allow us to provide more services and save money in the long run, which is an unusual statement.
Yeah.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
And I would just say that you touched on enrollment, and are we just looking to boost enrollment? I think this plan is actually a reevaluation of where we think enrollment's going.
Agreed.
And we now understand that enrollment's going down, and we're planning for a smaller class size, and that allows us to expand on the 3 elementary schools as opposed to expanding Moose Hill.
Yep.
And that's, honestly, the vibe I'm getting up here. This is a different scenario than our conversations last year about the kindergarten. Our conversations last year about the kindergarten, we were not all in favor of it. And I'm not saying we're all in favor now. I'm not jumping ahead. But it seems like the response to this article is significantly more positive budget-wise from the group than last year.
They definitely listened and compromised. I'm
Yeah.
very impressed.
Outstanding.
I wouldn't even call it compromise. I think they looked at other options, as opposed to, I think they were stuck on the only standalone kindergarten in the state, and they didn't want to give that up.
Yeah.
And reevaluating things, I mean,
And they
I
solved
think this was
two
actually a
big
suggestion
issues.
last year, if I recall, was to
But they were-
put them in the elementary schools.
They were already kind of on
And
that
we were
path.
yeah, they were way
Yeah.
too far down the
Yeah.
road at that point, but no, it was good to see them go back to the drawing board.
Okay, so if there's no more public comment, I'll accept a motion to close public
So
comment.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Public comment is closed. Okay.
Hold on just 1 second for my minutes. Who opened public comment and who motioned and who seconded? I didn't get
I
that.
motioned.
Ryan motioned. Jason seconded.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, I don't remember. All right. Article 2, a special article for the full-day kindergarten and district office project. Okay, so we just had some discussion about this. Discussion on Article 2. Wow. Again, I think this is a great plan.
Yep.
I think we save money in a reasonably short period of time. We get out of that being one of 4 communities in the state of New Hampshire that doesn't have full-day K. It's a benefit to our students. Yes, we're making our reading goals and such now in kindergarten, but those goals are based on half-day K, not full-day K. So I think this is a great move, especially budget-wise, because it saves money down the road. Further discussion.
I
Okay.
also like that it solves the district office problem as
Oh,
well, and that
absolutely.
it's much more centrally located. It's like out in the middle of nowhere in Londonderry. Like I said, where is the district office when I had to go there to enroll my son for kindergarten? So like, it being almost in the center of town, like everything about this is significantly better.
Yes, getting out of that lease is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
It was wicked expensive there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then getting out of that building that used to be outside that door, even better.
Oh, yeah,
because that
the
building out
potential
there was
addition
like,
here.
Oh yes. I
No,
love
no, I'm
that.
just saying the original clam shack.
Oh, that's before my time.
Oh, yeah, you know,
Dating
it's
yourself.
like, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's a great plan.
Okay, so it sounds like we agree it's a great plan. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 2.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. I hope that the word gets out at how good of a program that is, or good of a plan that is, and that the voters support it, because it's a smart move budget-wise. And as far as, I don't know, school programming-wise. All right, Article 3, the general fund operating budget is, the school board budget is $89,116,875. The default budget is actually higher than that, $89,240,249. I should say, and I didn't say on the last one, the school board voted 5-0 in favor of both Article 2 and Article 3. Discussion on Article 3. You know what, and I'm gonna make another statement. I'm sorry to lead with statements, but I also think this is a very lean budget. They looked at decreased enrollment. They've not cut positions, but allowed positions to go away based on retirements in order to reduce numbers without having to lay off staff. they seem to be making good, lean budget decisions overall, and maybe you don't all agree with that, but that's where I'm coming from. Go, discussion on Article 3.
So this year's proposed budget is not only less than default, but it's also less than last year's proposed budget. I think as we talked about over and over, school districts, they're moving in the right direction, still providing services for the students while just reducing staff size.
Okay. If there's no more discussion on Article 3, I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 4, Londonderry Education Association Bargaining Agreement. I did not bring the notes with me of what changes were made with this, but I think we got a good rundown on that when we were at the school side. It's for $1,920,879. This is the teachers. And the following year, it's $1,682,340, and the third year, it's $1,647,733. It's basically increase in salaries and benefits over those paid at current staffing levels. Our teachers are important. Teachers in New Hampshire are paid a lot less than nearby states anyway, and this helps us recruit teachers, especially young ones. We're getting rid of the first 3 or 4 steps.
Yep, we're combining.
It's similar to the way the town was handling their bargaining agreements. It seems like a good move. I realize there's a cost, but you kind of get what you pay for. Discussion on Article 4. Okay, I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 4.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 5, this is the Allied Health Professionals contract. It is $189,307 for next year, and $178,173 the following year, and $180,960 thereafter. The school board voted in favor of it 5-0. It is similar to the changes in the teacher's contract, where it removes some of those first steps in order to help with recruiting efforts. Discussion on Article 5. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 5.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 6, authorization for special meeting on cost items. Basically, if 5 fails, they can have a meeting to try and fix it.
That's 4 and or 5.
Oh, that's 4 and or 5. Yeah, good catch. Look at that. Huh. Okay, cool. If 4 or 5 fails, they can have a meeting to try and fix those bargaining agreements. Discussion on Article 6. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 6.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Article 7, school lunch program and federal funds projects. This is, raise and appropriate $1,716,000, and $1,579,000 for a total of $3.3 million. Such funds to be self-supporting through local, state, or federal revenue sources. My understanding of this is that it allows us to receive federal funds for school lunches and other projects.
That's exactly it.
There's no tax impact. School board voted in favor of it 5-0. Discussion on Article 7. I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 7.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 8, special article, Buildings and Grounds Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the vote, $520,000 to put in the Buildings and Grounds Capital Reserve Fund. School board voted for it 5-0. It lists there what it covers. Discussion on Article 8.
I felt like, I forgot his name, but I think he did a really good job.
Joe Parzak?
Yeah,
our new
because I
Buildings
was
and Grounds.
kind of concerned about the value of
Oh, yeah,
his-
he's new,
it's
right?
over
Yeah.
$500,000, but
Yeah, he did do a good job.
Yeah.
he did a great job.
Yeah.
And he knows his numbers. He showed me ROI with the line painter.
Yeah.
Like, I'm impressed.
Speaking of that, the line painter's not in here.
It's in the general
now in the
operating
general
Correct,
budget,
it's in a
correct?
different thing. I'm just speaking
Okay.
about,
Yeah.
You just reminded me.
yes, yes, so I apologize, but yeah.
Yeah, he was great, and he, when we did the tour, he was, reasonably new to the job and already super knowledgeable
Yes.
and was fantastic.
Thank you.
So Amity, just some quick questions, like what are some of the big projects we're looking at in the next year or so?
There's some roofing, there's a fire panel upgrade, some bathroom floors that need to be done, some door frames, some security, and then some HVAC things at both the high school and the middle school. So some big general maintenance projects that need to get done.
In the boilers in the high school?
So that is part of our, the bond that passed for the infrastructure, so those will be replaced over the summer.
This next summer?
Yep.
Cool.
And
Yep.
this is fields too, yeah?
Yeah, there's $100,000 of this for fields. We had the field study this year, and they recommended that we put money back in to help our fields be able to withstand the hundreds of hours that they're used for games and practices.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 8? I'll accept the motion to recommend Article 8.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0.
Last page.
Article 9, Special Article District Technology Network Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund. It's $125,000 to go in that fund. The school board voted in favor of it, 5-0. Discussion on Article 9.
Crickets.
Seriously. One comment, I do think we're, and maybe I'm just not keeping up with the times here, and I don't work in the IT field, and there's a lot of people that do that are involved in this, but, we're spending a ton of money on IT. I pointed out at one of the meetings that we're spending more on IT with the staff included than the entire library budget, which we pour over on this side, on the town side. And this is not even included in that 1.6 I'm talking about. This is just the infrastructure reserve fund. So, I would love to see the town look at IT and take a look at that.
I think a lot of the costs have risen because we now do one-to-one for all of middle school and all of high school, so that's increased, having to have the access points and that sort of stuff with that. That's a simple answer, but yes, we can look more into that.
Fair enough, just a future comment.
I also want to point out the library is just one building. Like, you got so many
That's a-
buildings.
Fair point,
Yeah, different scale.
but I don't think there's 17 employees in the IT department.
No, I don't think,
How many are there?
I don't remember.
4 or 5?
No, because you have some at each building. I'd say there's like probably 12. I'd have to do a head
Yeah.
count in that.
Okay. All right, at any rate, discussion on Article 9. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 9.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. Article 10, Special Article Equipment Capital Reserve Fund to raise $95,000 for classroom furniture, technology, building maintenance, equipment and tools, et cetera, et cetera. It comes from the undesignated fund balance. The school board voted 5-0 in favor. Discussion on Article 10. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 10.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0, chair votes in the affirmative. Article 11, Special Article Vehicle and Machinery Capital Reserve Fund. It's $50,000 for the acquisition of vehicles and machinery, all coming out of fund balance. This is the truck
Yep.
and
A mower?
And a
line-
mower. Yeah.
and a
the line
mower.
painter went in.
The line painter.
Yeah, the line painter went into the
General budget,
operating
the general.
budget.
Oh, so sorry.
So this is truck and mower.
Yep. And that's it.
Great. Discussion on, and the school board was 5-0 if I didn't say that already. Discussion on Article 11.
So just one question. The mower was what, about 15 grand?
Yep.
35K for a truck? Good
So-
number?
So we had some money left over in there, so we adjusted. We have budgeted 60 for the box truck, about 75, but with the money that's already in the fund, adding to this, just the 50 will get us what we need.
Okay, so then the total for the truck is what, 65?
We've budgeted 60.
60, okay.
And 15 for the mower.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
so we think we can find something pretty reasonable in that
Yep.
ballpark.
Yep. In the calls and things that we did and the connections we have to Penske and Ryder, we felt
Yeah.
we could find what we needed in that price range.
And then any of the upgrades to the box for storage of the music
So,
equipment
so
is
we included that with that as the insurance as well, all the
all
costs
the
together.
little stuff.
Yep.
Awesome.
Further discussion on Article 11. I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 11.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0. All right, Article 12, Citizens Petition Warrant Article. This is, I might read this one. To adopt a tax cap for the Londonderry
Before
School
you do,
District.
I don't even know if we need to. Like, there's no impact, it's
point.
just a tool.
I agree
And
with
we're
Sarah on that.
waiting for details waiting from legal advice. So we get some more details on this before deliberative, yeah?
Even
Yeah.
so,
Yes, we have some preliminary, there is a clarifying bill that's in the House right now. They're not sure that, the confusion that we had in reading it has been in other towns. So there's a bill, it's House Bill 374 is being discussed now to clarify what was brought forth and what that would mean. We're not sure where it's gonna go with that. But basically, the may was to use that equation to adjust a tax cap. But we don't
But
have a
it does
tax.
institute a tax cap, and the may
The
is,
shall would be if you have a tax cap. If you have a tax cap, you shall have to abide by it. But
Right.
the equation to adjust the tax cap, which is here, is a may.
so what it seems like, and again, I don't think we're voting on this tonight. Correct? I don't wanna touch it right now, and, you know, I do think we should vote on it at deliberative because it is budgetary. I know there's not a dollar amount, but it is a budgetary item, cause it would definitely change things. But it seems like it's shall implement a tax cap of whatever percent, say 3%, but may use this formula instead of that number
Yes.
of 3%. And so I really think we need clarification.
So my point that I was trying to get at the last school board meeting is, this is incomplete. It's very confusing. And as Kate brought up, is like the question about CPI, which one? One of the RSAs that's not referenced here, or should have been referenced, defines all that stuff. So all those, items in that equation are defined somewhere. It's not left up just to the open. So when I read this and started digging into it, it's like, it's vague, in my opinion. Everything I'm saying is in my opinion, is reading, it's like, what are we trying to do here?
I would
And
like us not to be the first
yeah.
area that institutes this.
I mean,
I'd rather
legally-
see it happen somewhere else
I
and see what happens
believe
there.
the petitioner is going to amend it at deliberative. In speaking with her after the meeting, I believe that is her plan, to amend this to make it, to clarify, so that we have a better idea on, so the townspeople would have a better idea on what they'd be
Yeah,
voting
and
on.
my concern is, this went out for signatures, from the citizens. They signed this. I can see changing a typo here and there, but what I read here and what I think it should be are two different things. And that's in my opinion.
All right, so
I
we'll,
would be this is a no to me, 100% the way it's written. And then even to try to change it to something, I don't know if we, I defer to legal and everybody else, but it's like, they're two different things. That one of the RSAs tells you how to do it. I think the RSA :C, 32:5:C, I think that one tells you how to implement it, or at least part of it. So it's very confusing.
at any rate, we'll talk about it deliberative.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Do we need to open public comment again?
No.
No,
No.
I thought we said that we would just do the.
Everybody happy back
start.
there?
Okay.
I'm gonna do-
In that case, quick discussion of what I do with my agenda. It's dead in the water. Quick discussion of future meetings. Here it is. So the next budget committee meeting, first of all, we have the deliberatives, which, can somebody hit me with the dates of deliberative? 7th and 8th. Friday night, the 7th, at the high school cafeteria, for the school deliberative, and Friday morning, Saturday morning, the 8th, I believe at 9 a.m. for the town, also at the high school cafeteria. February 20th, which should be a Thursday, we'll have a budget committee meeting, I'm hoping in Moose Hill, to invite candidates that are running this coming year to come and introduce themselves and, get to, meet the committee, as we've done in the past. And then, after the election, March 20th would be the next budget committee meeting thereafter.
And to your question, Deb, no, not just the,
Yeah, in the past, the February budget committee meeting we've had the candidates come in and introduce themselves and say a few words and answer a few questions from the budget committee, so they get a chance to, I don't know, to meet us and we get a chance to put some faces with the names and the public gets to see that.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
No problem. Further business.
Dates to run for office for those, dates to file for office for those who want to sign up to run.
Any chance you have that, Justin? All right, January, so if you want to run for budget committee, I believe there are 3 positions up this year?
Two, I
Two.
thought.
Just 2?
3-year.
Just two.
Me and
Mine.
2.
Okay. So just 2 positions up this year on budget committee. 2 3-year positions. 2 3-year positions up for budget committee. The filing period is from January 22nd to January 31st in the town clerk's office. I encourage people to run.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair, quick question. Did you say February 20th for the next, for that budget committee meeting?
Yes, is that a Thursday?
You know, on the town calendar yet.
It might not be. But it should be soon. We just kind of had that conversation a couple days ago. Further business. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7-0. Thank you very much.
Great job.